Picture the year 27 BCE. The Republic has ended. Civil wars have stopped. A young man named Octavian stands before the Senate. He takes a new name, Augustus. The first emperor is born. The Golden Age begins. What made this age golden? Peace after decades of war. Prosperity after years of chaos. One law for millions of people. One currency from Britain to Syria. Roads that connected the world. Aqueducts that brought water to cities. Baths where citizens gathered. Forums where they traded. Temples where they prayed. Rome began as 7 hills above a river. The Tiber flowed past mud huts and wooden walls. Those hills would become the centre of the world. That river would carry ships from every corner of the Mediterranean. 1 in 4 humans would call themselves Roman. They spoke Latin in the west, Greek in the east, but they all followed Roman law. This golden age lasted over 2 centuries, from Augustus to Marcus Aurelius, from 27 BCE to 180 CE. Good emperors and bad emperors, warriors and philosophers, builders and destroyers, each left their mark on history. We know their names: Augustus, who created the empire; Nero, who fiddled while Rome burned; Vespasian, who built the Colosseum; Trajan, who expanded the borders; Hadrian, who built the wall; Marcus Aurelius, who wrote philosophy while fighting wars. But the Golden Age was more than emperors. Merchants sailed to India for spices. Engineers built bridges that still stand. Poets wrote verses we still read. Lawyers created principles we still use. Soldiers guarded frontiers we still recognize. Citizens lived lives not so different from our own. They woke each morning in apartment buildings. They bought bread from bakeries. They sent their children to school. They complained about taxes. They cheered at gladiator games. They relaxed at public baths. They worried about the future. The Roman Golden Age shaped our world. Our laws come from Roman courts. Our languages grew from Latin roots. Our cities follow Roman planning. Even our ideas about civilization itself come from Rome. We are all children of Rome, whether we know it or not. The Golden Age did not appear from nothing. It grew from centuries of struggle, from blood spilled in Italian fields, from ambitions that tore the Republic apart. By 100 BCE, Rome ruled the Mediterranean, but Rome could not rule itself. The old ways were breaking down. Small farms gave way to vast estates. Citizen soldiers became professional armies. Generals grew more powerful than senators. The Republic that had conquered the world was dying from within. 2 men showed the future, Gaius Marius and Lucius Cornelius Sulla. Both were brilliant generals. Both saved Rome from foreign enemies. Both nearly destroyed it from within. Marius reformed the legions. He recruited landless citizens. He gave them equipment, training, and hope for land after service. Soldiers now fought for their general, not the Senate. This seemed practical. It was revolutionary. Armies became personal tools. Loyalty shifted from state to commander. Sulla showed what those personal armies could do. He marched on Rome itself. Twice. The first Roman to bring legions into the sacred city. He made himself dictator. He killed thousands in proscriptions. Lists of enemies posted in the forum. Anyone could kill them. Their property was seized. Their families destroyed. Then Sulla retired. He showed that supreme power was possible. He also showed it could be surrendered. Others would learn only the first lesson. After Sulla came new ambitious men, Pompey the Great, Marcus Crassus, Julius Caesar. They formed the first triumvirate in 60 BCE, not a legal body, just 3 powerful men dividing the Republic between them. Pompey got Spain, Crassus got Syria, Caesar got Gaul. Caesar spent 9 years conquering Gaul. He made himself fabulously wealthy. He created a personally loyal army. He wrote commentaries that made him famous. Back in Rome, the triumvirate crumbled. Crassus died fighting Parthians. Molten gold poured down his throat. Pompey and Caesar turned on each other. The Senate sided with Pompey. They ordered Caesar to disband his armies. Caesar faced a choice: obey and face prosecution, or cross the Rubicon River with his legions. On January 10th, 49 BCE, Caesar crossed. Civil war began. Caesar won. He chased Pompey to Egypt. Pompey died on an Egyptian beach, stabbed by men seeking Caesar's favour. Caesar wept when given Pompey's head. Perhaps genuine tears, perhaps political theatre. Back in Rome, Caesar became dictator, not for 6 months like tradition allowed, but for life. He reformed the calendar. He planned grand projects. He pardoned enemies. He wore red boots like ancient kings. On March 15th, 44 BCE, senators surrounded him in Pompey's theatre. 23 stab wounds. Caesar fell at the base of Pompey's statue. The irony was lost on no one. The assassins thought they saved the Republic. They only hastened its end. Caesar's lieutenant Mark Antony seized power. Caesar's adopted son Octavian arrived from Greece. Caesar's cavalry commander Lepidus controlled troops in Gaul. These three formed the Second Triumvirate in 43 BCE. This triumvirate was legal. The Senate granted them supreme power for 5 years. They used it brutally. Proscription lists appeared again. 300 senators died. 2,000 equestrians. Cicero's head and hands were nailed to the speaker's platform. The Republic's greatest voice was silenced. The triumvirs divided the world. Antony took the rich east. Octavian got Rome and the west. Lepidus received Africa. They sealed their alliance at Philippi. Caesar's assassins died there. Brutus and Cassius fell on their swords. The Republic died with them. But 3 men could not share the world forever. Lepidus tried to challenge Octavian. He lost. He spent 30 years under house arrest, a living reminder of failed ambition. Antony went east. He needed money for campaigns. He found Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, brilliant, wealthy, and ambitious. Not the beauty of legend, but something more dangerous. A woman who spoke 9 languages, who ruled the Mediterranean's richest nation, who dreamed of empire. Antony and Cleopatra allied, then loved. Or perhaps love was always alliance. They had 3 children. They divided the East between them and their children. They called themselves gods. Dionysus and Isis, new deities for a new age. In Rome, Octavian prepared. He was young, only 20 when the triumvirate formed. But he learned quickly. He secured the West. He won over the Senate. He portrayed Antony as bewitched, no longer Roman, a slave to Eastern luxury and a foreign queen. By 32 BCE, the break was complete. Antony divorced Octavian's sister. Octavian published Antony's will. It left kingdoms to Cleopatra's children. It asked to be buried in Alexandria. The Senate declared war. Not on Antony, that would be civil war, but on Cleopatra, a foreign enemy, a convenient fiction. The forces met at Actium in 31 BCE, a naval battle off Greece's western coast. Antony had more ships, larger ships, but Octavian had Agrippa, Rome's best admiral. The battle turned when Cleopatra fled, her purple sails disappearing south. Antony followed. Love or strategy? We will never know. His fleet surrendered. His army melted away. Octavian pursued them to Egypt. Antony heard false news of Cleopatra's death. He fell on his sword, died in her arms. Cleopatra tried to negotiate. Octavian was unmoved. She chose the asp, died as she lived. On her own terms, Egypt became a Roman province. The last Hellenistic kingdom fell. Octavian returned to Rome in 29 BCE, the master of the Roman world. But he had learned from Caesar's fate. No red boots, no divine honours. Instead, he offered to restore the Republic. In January 27 BCE, he went before the Senate. He surrendered his extraordinary powers. The Senate begged him to reconsider. They granted him control of the frontier provinces, where the armies were. They gave him a new name, Augustus, the revered one. He accepted reluctantly, or so it appeared. The Republic was restored, with one small change. Augustus controlled everything that mattered. This was the constitutional settlement. Not a monarchy. Romans hated kings, but a principate. Augustus was merely the first citizen, the princeps. He held republican offices, consul, tribune, pontifex maximus. Nothing unconstitutional, just all power concentrated in one man. The settlement was brilliant. It preserved republican forms, it provided stable government, it ended civil wars. Senators kept their dignity, the people kept their illusions, Augustus kept power. Everyone was satisfied, or at least unwilling to fight. The Roman Republic had taken centuries to build. It died in decades of civil war. But from its ashes rose something new, an empire that would last 500 years in the west, 1500 in the east. The Golden Age could finally begin. Augustus had power. Now he had to keep it and use it. The man who had won through civil war would reign through peace. He moved carefully. No grand pronouncements, no sudden changes. The Republic still existed, on paper. Augustus simply held most offices, for limited terms, renewed by a grateful Senate, year after year, decade after decade. He kept the consulship at first, the Republic's highest office, but consuls served only 1 year. This limited his time for other duties. In 23 BCE he made a change. He resigned the consulship. He took tribunician power instead, the power of the people's representatives. It let him veto any act, summon any assembly. His person became sacred. Anyone who attacked him attacked the Roman people. This was genius. Tribunes had always opposed the Senate, champions of common citizens. Now Augustus was the ultimate tribune, defender of all Romans. The Senate could not oppose him without seeming anti-popular. The people loved him for taking their side. He also kept Imperium Maius, greater command. He outranked every governor, every general. He could intervene anywhere, override anyone. But he used this power sparingly. Local officials kept their dignity. They just knew who was really in charge. The Senate still met, still debated, still passed decrees. Augustus attended as a private citizen. He spoke from the floor, not the chair. He listened respectfully. Then senators voted as he wished, not from fear, or not only fear, but because he was usually right. He reorganized the provinces. Peaceful ones went to the Senate. They sent governors chosen by lot, traditional republican methods. Border provinces stayed with Augustus. He sent hand-picked legates, men he trusted, men who owed everything to him. The armies were in these provinces. Augustus controlled every legion without seeming to. He created new positions, prefects for Egypt, for the grain supply, for the city watch, for the Praetorian Guard, important jobs, but not traditional offices. No threat to republican dignity, just efficient administration. Each prefect answered to Augustus alone. The Praetorian Guard was special. 9 cohorts of elite troops, 3 stationed in Rome, 6 in nearby Italian towns, the only soldiers allowed near the capital. They protected Augustus. They also reminded everyone who held real power. Their prefect became one of Rome's most powerful men. Augustus reformed the Senate itself. He reduced its size. From 900 to 600, he purged the unworthy. Men who had bought their way in during civil wars. He added new men, from Italian towns, from loyal families. The Senate became more dignified, also more obedient. He revived old priesthoods, ancient ceremonies, forgotten festivals. Romans loved tradition. Augustus gave it to them. He became Pontifex Maximus in 12 BCE, chief priest of Rome. Religion and state merged in his person. The gods blessed his rule. Opposition became sacrilege. But power meant nothing without peace. For generations, Rome had bled itself in civil wars. Augustus ended that. The Temple of Janus closed its doors. This happened only in times of complete peace. The doors had closed twice in 700 years. Under Augustus, they closed 3 times. He reduced the legions from 50 to 28. later to 25. Smaller armies meant less expense, also fewer opportunities for ambitious generals. He settled veterans in colonies, gave them land, made them farmers. Former soldiers became pillars of stability. The remaining legions were professional. They served 25 years, then received land or money, good pay, regular donatives, clear promotion paths. They swore loyalty to Augustus personally, not to Rome, not to the Senate, to their imperator, their commander, their provider. He stationed legions on frontiers, not in Italy. Italy became demilitarized, peaceful. No general could march on Rome. They were too far away. Their soldiers were too attached to frontier life. Civil war became structurally impossible. Augustus chose frontiers carefully, natural boundaries where possible, rivers in Europe, the Rhine, the Danube, deserts in Africa and Asia. He conquered some territories, Egypt, northwestern Spain, the Alpine regions, but mostly he consolidated, made Roman rule systematic, efficient, permanent. When he did fight, he chose targets carefully. Germany seemed ripe for conquest. Rich lands, divided tribes. His stepsons Drusus and Tiberius led campaigns. They reached the Elbe River. Germany seemed won. Then came Teutoburg Forest. 3 legions destroyed. Varus dead. 17,000 Romans slaughtered. Augustus wept. Varus, give me back my legions. Germany was abandoned. The Rhine became the permanent frontier. This disaster taught a lesson. Expansion had limits. Better to hold what Rome had, make it prosperous, make it Roman, let barbarians stay barbarians, outside looking in, wanting Roman goods, fearing Roman power, but not requiring Roman armies to control them. Within the frontiers, peace brought prosperity. The Pax Romana, Roman peace, not just absence of war, active creation of stability, laws enforced uniformly, bandits suppressed ruthlessly, pirates eliminated from the Mediterranean, trade routes secured, merchants could travel from Britain to Syria, from the Atlantic to the Black Sea, all under Roman protection. Roads connected the empire, not just paths, engineered highways, stone surfaces, drainage systems, mile markers, way stations. Troops could march quickly. More importantly, goods could flow freely. Roman roads became commercial arteries. They pumped wealth through the empire. Aqueducts brought water to cities, clean water, abundant water, public fountains in every neighborhood, public baths for every class. Romans bathed more than any people until modern times. Health improved, cities grew, urbanization accelerated. Augustus rebuilt Rome itself. He found it brick. He left it marble. The Forum expanded. New temples rose. The Theatre of Marcellus, the Baths of Agrippa, the Pantheon's first version. Romans could be proud of their city. It looked like the capital of the world. He encouraged others to build. Agrippa spent fortunes on public works. Wealthy men competed in generosity. New buildings bore donor names, permanent monuments to civic virtue. The rich spent on public goods. They gained honor. The people gained infrastructure. Everyone benefited. But Augustus' greatest creation was cultural. The Augustan age produced Rome's finest literature. This was no accident. Augustus and his friend Maecenas patronized poets, protected them, enriched them, guided them. Not crude propaganda, subtle celebration of Roman renewal. Virgil wrote the Aeneid, Rome's national epic. Aeneas fleeing Troy, founding the Roman race, destiny made manifest, gods choosing Rome for greatness. The poem justified empire, made it divinely ordained. Romans read it for centuries. School children memorized passages. It shaped Roman identity. Horace crafted perfect odes, celebrating Roman virtues, simple living, duty, courage, piety. His Carmen Saecula marked Augustus's new age. 17 children sang it at secular games, ancient ceremony renewed, the past blessing the present. Ovid wrote of love, of metamorphosis, of Rome's religious calendar, brilliant poetry, perhaps too brilliant, too independent. He wrote of love while Augustus preached family values. He was exiled to the Black Sea, died there. Even patronage had limits. Livy wrote history, from Rome's foundation to his own day. 142 books, only 35 survive. But they shaped how Romans saw their past. Heroes and villains, moral lessons, decline and renewal, history teaching present virtue. Architecture proclaimed Augustus' vision, classical Greek forms but bigger. Roman concrete allowed new designs, domes, vaults, massive structures. The Arapacis showed peace bringing prosperity. The Forum of Augustus displayed Roman heroes, stone propaganda, beautiful, permanent, persuasive. Augustus revived religion, not from personal faith, from political wisdom. He rebuilt 82 temples. He revived ancient priesthoods, the Arval brothers, the Salii. He enforced religious law, consultation of omens, proper sacrifices. The gods had made Rome great. Rome must honour the gods. He promoted family values, marriage laws. Adultery became criminal. Childlessness brought penalties. 3 children brought privileges. Elite women gained new freedoms if they bore enough citizens. The state entered bedrooms, population policy disguised as morality. He celebrated the secular games in 17 BCE. Ancient ceremony marking a new age, a seculum, once every 100 years, or whenever rulers needed legitimacy. Augustus needed it. The games lasted 3 days. Sacrifices, performances, prayers. All Rome participated. The new age was officially proclaimed. This was Augustus's genius. He changed everything while changing nothing. Revolution disguised as restoration. He kept republican forms, consul, senate, assemblies, but drained them of power. Real authority flowed through new channels, all leading to Augustus. He lived simply. No palace, just a house on the Palatine. Nice but not ostentatious. He wore homespun togas. His wife and daughter wove them. He ate common food. He attended public festivals. He was approachable, just a citizen, who happened to control the world. By 2 CE, he had ruled 45 years. A generation knew no other leader. The Republic was a memory. The Principate was normal. Augustus was pater patrio, father of the fatherland, not a title he sought. The Senate insisted, the people demanded. He accepted reluctantly, as always. He planned succession carefully, not hereditary. Rome was not a monarchy, but guided selection. His friend Agrippa, dead. His grandsons, dead. His stepson Tiberius remained, solid, experienced, not loved but respected. Augustus adopted him, shared power gradually. When Augustus died in 14 CE, transition was smooth. The system survived its creator. Augustus found Rome in chaos. He left it ordered. He found it weak. He left it strong. He found it brick. He left it marble. But his greatest achievement was invisible. He created a system, a way of ruling without seeming to rule. A monarchy that denied its name. It would last 2 centuries, the foundation of Rome's golden age. Augustus died on August 19th, 14th CE. He was 75 years old. He had ruled 45 years. His last words were about his performance. Have I played my part well in the comedy of life? The actor was leaving the stage, but the show would continue. Tiberius stepped forward smoothly. No crisis, no civil war. The system worked as designed. Augustus had prepared everything. The Senate confirmed Tiberius's powers. The army swore loyalty. The provinces stayed calm. Succession was boring. That was Augustus' final gift to Rome. But Tiberius was not Augustus. He was 54 when he became emperor. A lifetime soldier, a capable general, an experienced administrator. He had governed provinces, won battles, handled crises. He knew the job better than anyone. He also hated it. Tiberius had never wanted power. He preferred privacy, study, quiet contemplation. He had tried to retire once. In 6 BCE, he left Rome for Rhodes, stayed 8 years, studied philosophy, watched the stars, lived simply. Augustus forced him back, adopted him, made him heir. Duty trumped desire. He ruled reluctantly but well. At first, he respected the Senate, let them debate, followed their advice when it made sense. He managed finances carefully, left the treasury full. He kept the armies disciplined, the frontier secure, the provinces peaceful, competent government, joyless leadership. His early years showed promise. When Germanicus died in 19 CE, suspicion fell on everyone. The popular prince dead at 33, poisoned, people whispered, by agents of Tiberius, or his mother Livia, or Syrian governor Piso. Tiberius handled it calmly. Public funeral, criminal trial, justice seemed to be done, the empire stayed stable. He managed crises well. When Sejanus built a theatre that collapsed, 20,000 died. Tiberius organized relief, compensation for victims, investigation of causes, new safety standards, good administration, no drama, just efficiency. Germanic tribes rebelled in 17 CE. Tiberius sent his adopted son Germanicus, the golden young general, beloved by armies, adored by people. 3 campaigns tamed the tribes. Germany stayed quiet. The Rhine frontier held. Tiberius got results. Germanicus got glory. But Tiberius grew tired. Suspicious. The job wore him down. Senators flattered to his face, whispered behind his back. They wanted him to be Augustus, charming, accessible, always performing. Tiberius was none of these things. He grew bitter, withdrawn, harsh. Lucius Aelius Sejanus changed everything. Praetorian prefect, the guard commander, ambitious, clever, ruthless. He whispered poison in Tiberius's ear. Enemies everywhere, conspiracies brewing, treason in the Senate. Only Sejanus could be trusted. Only Sejanus understood. Tiberius listened. Sejanus gained influence, real power. He moved the Praetorian Guard from scattered camps to one fortress, the Castra Praetoria, outside Rome's walls, but close enough to intimidate. 9,000 soldiers under his personal command. Rome felt their presence. In 26 CE, Tiberius made a fateful choice. He left Rome. Permanently, he went to Capri, a small island off Naples. Beautiful, isolated, defensible. He said he needed rest, fresh air, peace to think. He never returned to the capital. He ruled the empire from a villa, through letters, through Sejanus. Sejanus saw his chance. He ruled Rome in all but name. He purged enemies, promoted allies, built a network of spies, informers, loyal agents. Treason trials multiplied. Senators lived in fear. Anyone could be denounced, property seized, lives destroyed. The Republic's traditions meant nothing. Tiberius stayed on Capri. Reports reached him daily. Sejanus filtered everything, shaped every message. The emperor grew more isolated, more suspicious, more dependent on his prefect. Rome had 2 rulers, one visible, one hidden. Neither loved. Stories spread about Capri, wild tales, sexual depravity, torture chambers, boys thrown from cliffs. Later historians repeated everything. Suetonius loved scandal. Tacitus hated tyranny. Truth became impossible to separate from rumour. Tiberius's reputation never recovered, but the provinces prospered. Taxes stayed low. Justice functioned. Governors stayed honest. They knew Tiberius watched, investigated. punished corruption severely. Distance did not mean inattention. The empire ran smoothly, even from Capri. By 31 CE, Sejanus overreached. He sought marriage to Tiberius's niece, official status, recognition as heir. He had purged too many enemies, grown too powerful, too visible. Tiberius finally saw the danger, or his sister-in-law Antonia warned him. The emperor struck suddenly. A letter reached the Senate, praising Sejanus, then criticizing him, then ordering his arrest. Senators turned instantly. Yesterday's patron became today's criminal. Sejanus died that evening. His supporters followed, his children murdered, his name erased. Tiberius had moved too late, but decisively. The emperor lived 6 more years. He never returned to Rome. He ruled from letters, edicts, proclamations. The system functioned without him, perhaps better without him. Bureaucrats administered, armies obeyed, trade flourished. The empire needed its emperor less than anyone imagined. Tiberius died in 37 CE, on the mainland near Capri. He was 77. He had ruled 23 years, the longest reign after Augustus, not loved, but successful. The borders were secure, the treasury was full, the provinces were calm. He left the empire stronger than he found it. His heir was obvious, Caligula, Gaius Julius Caesar, Germanicus's son, the popular prince's child. 4 generations removed from Augustus, but legitimate, young, handsome, promising. Rome rejoiced. After the bitter old man, a golden youth. What could go wrong? Everything, as it turned out. But that came later. At first, Caligula seemed perfect. He was 24 when he became emperor. Tall, handsome, well-spoken. He honoured Tiberius with proper funeral rites. He recalled exiles. He paid bonuses to soldiers. He staged magnificent games. Rome fell in love. The honeymoon lasted 6 months. Then Caligula fell ill. A fever. Delirium. He nearly died. When he recovered, something had changed. The charming prince became a monster, or so the historians claim. Modern scholars doubt everything. Ancient writers had their own agendas. Caligula threatened their class, their values, their world. They painted him as madman. Perhaps he was just different. He challenged tradition, ignored the Senate, spoke to crowds directly. He staged elaborate spectacles, built a bridge across the Bay of Naples, rode across it wearing Alexander's breastplate. Pointless, or powerful theatre. He understood that emperors were performers. He gave audiences what they wanted: drama, excitement, spectacle. He claimed divine status, demanded worship, built temples to himself, shocking to traditional Romans, normal in the East. Alexander had done it. Egyptian pharaohs had done it. Eastern kings had done it. Why not Roman emperors? The world was wider than Roman tradition. He spent lavishly on games, buildings, bonuses. The treasury surplus vanished. New taxes appeared. Property seizures increased. The wealthy grumbled. They had loved his generosity when aimed at others. They hated it when aimed at them. Hypocrisy disguised as principle. He humiliated senators, made them run beside his chariot, forced them to worship him, appointed his horse as consul. Stories multiplied, some true, many exaggerated, all remembered. The Senate class never forgave him. They wrote the history books. They controlled his reputation. But common people loved him. He gave them games, spectacles, entertainment. He reduced their taxes, increased their benefits. He was accessible, friendly, approachable. He spoke their language. He understood their needs. The rich hated him. The poor adored him. History belonged to the rich. His foreign policy was aggressive. He planned campaigns in Germany, Britain. But nothing came of them. He gathered armies, then dismissed them. He built bridges, then destroyed them. Expensive gestures, pointless theatre, or careful intimidation. Enemies never knew what he might do. Uncertainty was a weapon. He pushed boundaries constantly. Sexual, political, religious, social, not from madness, from calculation. He tested limits. How far could an emperor go? What would Romans accept? He found the boundaries by crossing them. Knowledge gained through experimentation. By 41 CE, he had gone too far. Too many enemies, too much fear, too little support among the powerful. Praetorian officers plotted against him. Senators encouraged them. On January 24th, 41 CE, guards struck. In a theatre corridor, during games. Caligula died instantly. So did his wife, his infant daughter. The Julio-Claudian line seemed ended, but it was not. Guards found Claudius, Caligula's uncle, hiding behind curtains, terrified, shaking. They dragged him to their camp. Why? Perhaps they needed a figurehead. Perhaps they feared civil war. Perhaps they pitied him. They proclaimed him emperor. The Senate had no choice. The armies were committed. Another smooth transition. The system survived again. Claudius was 50 when he became emperor. He had spent his life in shadows. His family was embarrassed by him. He stammered, he drooled, he limped, his head shook. Clear signs of weakness to Roman minds. They hid him away, gave him books, let him study, never imagined he might rule. But his mind was sharp. He had written histories, studied languages, learned administration, watched politics from the sidelines, seen everything, understood everything, been ignored by everyone. Now suddenly he was emperor. The joke was on them. He surprised everyone. His first acts were measured, reasonable. He pardoned Caligula's enemies. He honoured Caligula's memory. He restored confiscated property. He recalled exiles. He reduced taxes. He increased benefits. Reconciliation after chaos. Stability after excitement. He worked with the Senate, respectfully. He attended meetings, listened to debates, followed procedures. He was boring after Caligula. That was exactly what Rome needed. Boring government, predictable leadership, competent administration. Claudius provided all of these. He understood that being ignored had been education. He knew who could be trusted, who was competent, who was ambitious. He promoted freedmen, former slaves with real ability. Romans sneered. They preferred incompetent aristocrats to capable ex-slaves. Claudius ignored their prejudices. Results mattered more than bloodlines. His greatest achievement was Britain. Romans had talked about conquering Britain for generations. Caesar had landed there twice, then left. Augustus had planned invasion, then cancelled it. Caligula had gathered armies, then dismissed them. Britain remained free, unconquered, challenging. Claudius took up the challenge, not from military glory, from practical calculation. Britain had resources: tin, lead, silver, grain, slaves. It was divided among warring tribes, some friendly to Rome, others hostile. Conquest seemed feasible, profitable, necessary. In 43 CE, 4 legions landed in Kent. Aulus Plautius commanded, experienced, competent, careful. The campaign went smoothly. Tribes surrendered. King submitted. Claudius himself arrived for the capture of Camulodunum, the first Roman emperor to lead troops in battle since Augustus. Good theatre, better politics. The conquest took 40 years to complete. But the foundation was solid. Roman roads crossed the island. Roman towns arose. Roman law was enforced. Roman culture spread. Britain became thoroughly Roman. Claudius's greatest legacy, his name remembered, his achievement permanent. He reformed the bureaucracy, created departments, appointed specialists, built a civil service. Greeks handled correspondence. Freedmen managed finances. Professionals administered justice. Government became systematic, efficient, predictable, less dependent on imperial whim. He extended citizenship carefully. Gallic chiefs became senators. Spanish families gained rights. The empire slowly Romanized, or perhaps Rome slowly became imperial. Citizens everywhere felt included, involved, important. The system gained legitimacy, stability, permanence. He built extensively. The port of Ostia, aqueducts, roads, the Circus Maximus, practical projects, necessary infrastructure, not monuments to ego, solutions to problems. Rome's population was fed, its water was clean, its roads were safe, good government made visible. But his personal life was chaotic. He married 4 times. His third wife was Messalina. Beautiful, young, ambitious, she accumulated power, wealth, lovers. She plotted against her husband, or so his advisers claimed. In 48 CE, she was executed. While Claudius was out of town, he learned of it later. Palace intrigue had its own logic. His 4th wife was Agrippina, Caligula's sister, ambitious, ruthless, intelligent. She brought a son from her first marriage, Nero, 12 years old. Claudius adopted him, made him heir, bypassed his own son Britannicus. Love or politics? With Agrippina they were the same thing. Claudius died in 54 CE. Suddenly, mysteriously. Poisoned mushrooms, people whispered. Agrippina had motive, means, opportunity. But proof was impossible. Palace deaths were always suspicious. Truth was rarely known. Only results mattered. Nero became emperor. He was 16. Nero began well, or his advisers did. Burrus commanded the Praetorian Guard. Seneca taught philosophy. Both guided the young emperor. They respected the Senate. They managed finances carefully. They kept the armies loyal. The first 5 years were golden. Quinquennium Neronis, Nero's good 5 years. But Nero had other interests. He loved art, music, poetry, theatre, racing. He wanted to perform, not govern. Performance was his passion. Politics was his burden. He delegated real power, kept the fun parts. This worked. For a while. He performed on stage, sang songs, drove chariots. Romans were shocked. Emperors should be dignified, distant, imperial, not entertainers, not artists, certainly not in public. Nero ignored their prejudices. He had talent. Why hide it? Why not share it? His personal life scandalized traditionalists. He divorced his first wife, married his mistress Poppaea, then killed her, accidentally, he claimed, in a fit of rage, or perhaps deliberately. Stories multiplied. Truth became impossible. His reputation darkened. In 59 CE, he killed his mother. Agrippina had created him, guided him, controlled him. Now she threatened him, or he thought she did, or his advisers convinced him she did. The details matter less than the result. Matricide stained his reign permanently. Some crimes could not be forgiven. Rome burned in 64 CE. For 6 days, 9 of 14 districts were damaged. 3 were destroyed completely. Hundreds died. Thousands lost everything. The Great Fire changed Rome forever. Nero was at Antium when it started. He rushed back. Organized relief. Opened his own gardens to refugees. Efficient response. But rumors started immediately. People said he started the fire to build his golden house, the greatest palace ever conceived, covering 1/3 of the city, with an artificial lake, revolving dining rooms, mechanical wonders, a colossal statue of himself as sun god. The house was real. The arson accusation was not, but it stuck anyway. He blamed the Christians, a new sect, strange beliefs, secret meetings, easy scapegoats. He arrested hundreds, fed them to lions, burned them as torches, used them in garden parties. The first great persecution. Christians remembered. They never forgave. They wrote the history. His artistic ambitions grew. He toured Greece, competed in games, won every contest, not from skill, from politics. No one defeated emperors. He collected 1,800 first prizes, Olympic crowns, musical victories, athletic triumphs, all meaningless, all cherished. Meanwhile, the empire cracked. Boudica rebelled in Britain, burned London, massacred colonists. 70,000 Romans died before the revolt was crushed. Judea exploded in 66 CE. Religious war, nationalist uprising. 4 legions besieged Jerusalem. The temple burned. Judaism was shattered. Nero ignored everything. He was performing, creating art, composing songs, building palaces. The empire could wait. Art was eternal. Politics was temporary, or so he believed. Others disagreed. They started plotting. Galba rebelled in Spain, Vindex in Gaul. Otho waited in the wings. The Praetorian Guard wavered. The Senate condemned Nero as a public enemy. His support melted away. Everyone abandoned him. Guards, friends, servants, family. On June 9th, 68 CE, Nero died. By his own hand. His last words, "What an artist dies in me." Perhaps he was right. Perhaps he was a great artist. But he was also a terrible emperor. Rome needed rulers, not performers, governors, not artists. The Golden Age needed better leadership. The Julio-Claudian dynasty ended with him. Augustus' family was extinct. The Principate survived, but it needed new blood, new leadership, new direction. The year of 4 emperors was about to begin. Civil war threatened again. The Golden Age hung in the balance. Civil war returned to Rome. The nightmare Augustus had ended was beginning again. 4 men would claim imperial power. 3 would die violently. The empire would nearly tear itself apart, but it would survive, stronger than before. Servius Sulpicius Galba struck first. He governed Hispania Tarraconensis, a rich Spanish province. He was 73 years old, a stern disciplinarian from an ancient noble family. He had served Rome faithfully for 50 years. Now Rome needed him, or so he believed. When Vindex rebelled in Gaul, Galba watched carefully. The Gallic revolt failed. Vindex killed himself. But the message was clear. Nero's support was crumbling. Generals were ready to act. The empire needed new leadership. Galba answered the call. He declared himself emperor in April 68 CE. His legion supported him. Spanish auxiliary units joined him. But he moved cautiously. He was old, experienced. He knew civil wars destroyed more than they created. He waited for Nero's collapse, then marched on Rome. Nero's death simplified everything. No rival emperor to fight, no loyal legions to defeat, just an empty throne waiting. Galba entered Rome in October 68 CE. The Senate confirmed his powers. The people welcomed him. The Praetorian Guard swore loyalty. Everything seemed settled. But Galba was the wrong man for the moment. He was honest, competent, incorruptible, also harsh, inflexible, ungenerous. Rome needed healing after Nero's excesses. Galba brought austerity. The city had expected celebration. It got discipline instead. He refused to pay bonuses. Soldiers always expected donatives from new emperors. Galba said the treasury was empty. He chose his soldiers. He did not buy them. Admirable principles, terrible politics. Unpaid soldiers were dangerous soldiers. Angry soldiers were worse. He appointed capable administrators, reformed corrupt practices, balanced budgets, restored fiscal responsibility, everything Augustus would have approved. But Augustus had charm, political skill, common touch. Galba had none of these. He governed like a stern father. Romans wanted an indulgent uncle. He made fatal mistakes. He adopted Piso Licinianus as heir, a worthy young man, noble family, good character, perfect choice, except for one problem. Marcus Salvius Otho had expected adoption. He was Galba's supporter, his friend, his ally. Now he was bypassed, humiliated, furious. Otho had been governor of Lusitania, another Spanish province. He had joined Galba's revolt early, risked everything for the cause, expected reward, imperial adoption, recognition. Instead, he got nothing. Worse than nothing. Public rejection. His ambitions crushed. His dignity destroyed. He was 36 years old, wealthy, charming, popular with soldiers. He had been married to Poppaea before Nero stole her. Everyone knew the story. Everyone sympathized. He was a victim of imperial caprice, a wronged man seeking justice, or so he claimed. On January 15th, 69 CE, Otho struck. 23 Praetorian soldiers escorted him to their camp. A tiny force, but symbolic power. The guard proclaimed him emperor. Other units joined them. The city waited to see who would win, the old man or the younger rival. Galba marched to the forum. He wanted to address the people, show his strength, rally support. Instead, he found chaos. Soldiers everywhere, citizens hiding, fear in the air. His escort melted away. Praetorians surrounded him, swords drawn, no mercy shown. He died in the Forum Romanum, cut down like a criminal. His head was carried to Otho, proof of victory. His body left unburied, food for dogs, an emperor's end. Piso died the same day. Galba's reign lasted 7 months, the shortest since Caligula. Otho was emperor now. The Senate confirmed it quickly. They had no choice. The guard supported him. The people accepted him. He seemed to have won easily, complete victory, total triumph. Except for one problem. The German legions had not been consulted. Aulus Vitellius commanded 2 German provinces, the Lower Rhine, the Upper Rhine, 8 veteran legions, battle-tested soldiers. They had heard about events in Rome. They were not pleased. Their loyalty was for sale, but the price was high. Vitellius was ready to pay. He was 54 years old, from a distinguished family. His father had been consul 3 times, censor, close adviser to emperors. Vitellius himself was competent, experienced, well-connected, also lazy, self-indulgent, fond of luxury. The soldiers did not care. They wanted generous leadership. He provided it. The German legions declared Vitellius emperor on January 2nd, 69 CE, 2 weeks before Otho's coup. Communications were slow. Neither knew about the other initially. When they learned, war was inevitable. 2 emperors, 1 empire. Only battle would decide. Vitellius had advantages: more legions, better soldiers, professional officers. His troops were hardened by frontier warfare, Germanic raids, constant vigilance. They knew how to fight, how to win, how to die if necessary. Roman armies rarely defeated Rhine legions. Otho had other strengths. He controlled Rome, the treasury, the bureaucracy. He had Praetorian support, urban cohort loyalty, Egyptian grain ships, the eastern provinces. Numbers might be equal. Resources certainly favoured him. But quality mattered more than quantity. Both sides prepared for war. Vitellius sent armies south, through Alpine passes, down Italian roads, toward Rome. Otho gathered forces from Dalmatia, from Pannonia, from Maesia, wherever legions could be found. Italy became a battlefield again. For the first time since Actium, the armies met at Bedriacum, near Cremona, in northern Italy. Otho was not there. He stayed in Rome, managing resources, coordinating strategy, or perhaps avoiding battle. His generals commanded instead. Professional soldiers, capable leaders, but not the emperor himself. The battle was fierce. Both sides fought desperately. Roman killing Roman, legion against legion. No quarter asked, none given. The Vitellian forces slowly gained advantage. Better training showed. Superior discipline mattered. Otho's army broke first, scattered, fled. Victory went to Vitellius. Otho received the news in Rome. His generals were dead, his armies destroyed, his cause was lost. He could flee east, gather new forces, continue the war. Instead, he chose death. On April 16th, 69 CE, he fell on his sword. He had ruled 3 months. His final act was his noblest. He ended the war to save Roman lives. Vitellius entered Rome in July 69 CE, triumphant, victorious, acclaimed by everyone. The Senate welcomed him. The people cheered him. The guard accepted him. He seemed firmly established. The civil war was over, or so it appeared. But the East had not spoken yet. Vespasian commanded the Jewish war. 3 legions besieged Jerusalem. The city was nearly conquered. The temple almost taken. Victory was close. But events in Rome changed everything. New emperor, new priorities, new opportunities. Vespasian saw his chance. He was 59 years old, from a middle-class Italian family, no noble ancestry, no inherited wealth. He had earned everything: military commands, provincial posts, imperial favour. He was competent, reliable, successful, the kind of man who built Rome's strength, not its glory. His sons were grown. Titus commanded a legion. Domitian waited in Rome, both capable, both loyal, both ambitious. A dynasty was possible. If their father seized power, if he won the coming war, if they all survived the struggle, big questions, dangerous gambles. The eastern provinces supported him: Syria, Egypt, Judea, rich territories, full treasuries, fresh recruits. Egypt controlled Rome's grain supply. Syria guarded eastern frontiers. Judea was nearly pacified. Together they formed a power base, strong enough to challenge anyone. Vitellius was vulnerable. His victory had been costly. His supporters were exhausted. His treasury was empty. He had spent lavishly on celebrations, bonuses, entertainments. Romans loved generosity, but somebody had to pay. The provinces grew restless. Taxes increased. Loyalty weakened. Vespasian moved carefully. He secured Egypt first, through Tiberius Alexander. The prefect proclaimed him emperor in July 69 CE. Syria followed quickly. Other provinces joined them. The East was united against the West, against Vitellius, against Rome itself. Another civil war began, but this was different. No desperate gamble, no personal ambition. Vespasian represented order, competence, stability. He had governed provinces, led armies, managed resources. He promised practical leadership, not charismatic performance, just effective government. Rome was tired of chaos, ready for boring competence. Vitellius tried to respond. He gathered armies, called up reserves, prepared defences, but his soldiers were demoralised, unpaid, untrained. They had won one battle, against Romans. Now they faced Eastern legions, veterans of Parthian wars, Judean campaigns, Syrian frontier duty, professional killers with good cause. The decisive battle came at Bedriacum again, the same bloody ground, where Otho had fallen, where Italy's fate was decided. Vespasian's general Antonius Primus commanded, an experienced officer, a careful planner, a ruthless fighter. He knew how to win battles, how to end wars. The Vitellian forces broke quickly. They had no heart for fighting. Their cause seemed hopeless. Their emperor was distant, their pay was irregular. Many deserted before battle. Others fled during it. Only a few died bravely. The rest just wanted to go home, to forget, to survive. Vitellius heard the news in Rome. His armies were destroyed. His supporters had fled. His reign was ending. He tried to abdicate, to negotiate surrender. to save his life. But his remaining followers would not let him. They forced him to fight on, to die as emperor, to take them down with him. The final battle was in Rome itself, street fighting, house to house, building by building. The Praetorian Guard fought desperately. Urban cohorts resisted fiercely. Citizens hid in terror. The Eternal City became a battlefield. Brothers fought brothers. Romans killed Romans. The empire tore itself apart. Vitellius died on December 20th, 69 CE. Dragged from hiding, beaten by crowds, his body thrown in the Tiber. No burial, no honours, no memory. He had ruled 8 months, long enough to destroy much, not long enough to build anything. His legacy was ashes, blood, regret. Vespasian was emperor now, the 4th in 12 months. But he was different, older, wiser, more experienced. He had watched the others fail, learned from their mistakes. He would not repeat them. He would build, not destroy, create, not consume, lead, not perform. The Flavian dynasty began on December 23rd, 69 CE. Not through inheritance, through merit, not through politics, through war, not through charm, through competence. The Golden Age had survived its greatest crisis. Civil war was ending, reconstruction could begin. Rome would be stronger, more stable, more secure. The lesson was clear. The empire was bigger than any one man, stronger than any dynasty, more enduring than any crisis. It would survive, it would prosper, it would endure. Vespasian faced enormous challenges. The empire was exhausted from civil war. The treasury was empty. Armies were demoralized. Provinces were restless. Rome itself was damaged. Buildings burned. Citizens traumatized. Trust shattered. Everything needed rebuilding. Everything needed repair. He began with basics. Money. Without funds, nothing else mattered. The civil wars had cost fortunes. Previous emperors had spent recklessly. Nero's golden house, Otho's bonuses, Vitellius's entertainments, all expensive, all wasteful, all funded by borrowed money. The bills were coming due. Vespasian raised taxes. Not popular, but necessary. He sold offices, auctioned privileges, collected debts. Some called him greedy. He called himself practical. Money has no odour, he said. Truth mattered more than dignity. Results mattered more than reputation. Solvency mattered most of all. He cut spending ruthlessly. Unnecessary projects were cancelled, redundant positions eliminated, excessive salaries reduced. The palace staff shrank dramatically. Imperial ceremonies became simpler. State dinners grew smaller. Every aureus counted. Every denarius mattered. Waste was the enemy of recovery. Within 2 years the treasury was stable, not full, but functional. Taxes flowed regularly. Expenses were controlled. Credit was restored. The empire could pay its bills, fund its armies, support its government. The foundation was solid. Everything else could follow. He reformed the legions carefully. The civil war had corrupted discipline. Soldiers had chosen emperors, killed officers, abandoned posts. Such behaviour could not continue. But punishment had to be measured. Too harsh would cause rebellion. Too lenient would encourage repetition. He disbanded some units completely, the most rebellious, the least reliable. Their soldiers were scattered, reassigned individually. Their standards were destroyed, their history erased. A clear message. Loyalty was rewarded, treason was punished. The choice was theirs. Other legions were reformed gradually, new officers appointed, fresh recruits added. Veteran troublemakers retired early. Standards were raised slowly. Discipline was restored quietly. No dramatic gestures, just steady pressure, consistent expectations, patient leadership. He created new legions too. 4 additional units, recruited from loyal provinces, commanded by reliable officers, positioned at strategic points, insurance against future rebellions, deterrence against ambitious generals. The civil war had taught harsh lessons. Vespasian learned them all. The Praetorian Guard needed special attention. They had killed 2 emperors, made 2 others. Their power was dangerous, their loyalty questionable, their arrogance insufferable. But they could not be eliminated. Rome needed protection. Emperors needed bodyguards. Reform was the only option. He dismissed the existing guard completely, sent them home without honours, recruited new men from frontier legions, soldiers who had never lived in Rome, who owed everything to him, who understood that emperors chose guardsmen, not the reverse. The new guard was loyal, disciplined, obedient. He strengthened the frontiers systematically. The Rhine had held during civil war, barely. Germanic tribes had tested Roman resolve, found it wanting. They needed reminding of Roman strength, Roman determination, Roman permanence. New forts were built, old ones repaired. Garrisons were reinforced, supply lines improved. The frontier became a wall, not of stone, but of steel, backed by Roman engineering, Roman discipline, Roman will. Barbarians learned to respect it again. The Danube required attention too. Dacian tribes were growing stronger, more organized, more dangerous. Their king Decebalus was brilliant, ambitious, patient. He was building a kingdom. Rome could not ignore him forever, but war could wait. Diplomacy was cheaper. Peace was preferable, for now. In Britain the conquest continued. 3 more legions pushed west and north. Welsh tribes resisted fiercely. Scottish clans remained independent, but progress was steady. Roman rule expanded, Roman law followed, Roman civilization took root. The island was becoming Roman, slowly but surely. Judea needed finishing. The Jewish war had dragged on, Jerusalem still held out, the temple still stood. Resistance continued. Vespasian's son Titus commanded the siege. The final assault was planned. Victory was certain, but the cost would be terrible for everyone involved. In 70 CE, Jerusalem fell. The walls were breached. The temple was burned. The city was destroyed. 1 million Jews died. Thousands were enslaved. The diaspora began. A people scattered. A faith tested. A tragedy that echoes still. Titus returned to Rome triumphant, but the victory felt hollow. Vespasian used the temple treasure wisely, not for luxury, for construction. The most ambitious project in Roman history, an amphitheatre, bigger than any before, more magnificent than imagination. The people would have their entertainment, but they would have it beautifully, permanently, memorably. The Flavian amphitheatre began rising in 72 CE, later called the Colosseum, built on Nero's artificial lake, where the Golden House had sprawled. Symbolism was intentional, public use replacing private excess, community space instead of imperial selfishness. The people's building on the tyrant's ruins. Construction proceeded rapidly. Thousands of workers laboured daily. Architects designed innovative features. Engineers solved impossible problems. Artists created lasting beauty. The building grew week by week, month by month, year by year, a monument to Roman skill, Roman ambition, Roman achievement. Vespasian governed practically. No grand theories, no philosophical systems, just common sense applied consistently. Problems were identified, solutions were found, resources were allocated, results were measured, simple principles, effective methods, boring success. He worked with the Senate respectfully. He attended meetings regularly. He listened to debates patiently. He followed advice when it made sense, but he never forgot who was emperor, who held real power, who made final decisions. Consultation was not abdication. Respect was not weakness. He promoted capable men regardless of background. Italians, provincials, even some Greeks. Birth mattered less than ability. Connections counted less than competence. The empire needed talent. He found it everywhere, used it effectively, rewarded it generously. His family was political asset. His wife Domitilla had died young, but his sons were grown, capable, loyal. Titus was military hero, popular with soldiers, respected by senators. Domitian was younger, less experienced, but intelligent, ambitious, reliable. Dynasty was possible if they all survived. He lived simply. No palace extravagances, no imperial ceremonies. He rose early, worked late, ate common food, wore plain clothes. He was accessible to citizens, friendly with equals, respectful to subordinates, a farmer's son who remembered his roots, an emperor who never forgot his humanity. His sense of humour was legendary. Even facing death, he joked. "I think I'm becoming a god," he said on his deathbed. Emperors were deified after death. He found the process amusing, ridiculous, typically Roman. His last words were characteristically practical. An emperor should die standing, he tried to rise. Failed, died anyway. June 23, 79 CE. He was 69 years old. Titus succeeded smoothly. No crisis, no violence, no uncertainty. The system worked as designed. He was 39 years old, experienced, tested, ready. The Senate confirmed his powers immediately. The army swore loyalty quickly. The provinces stayed calm completely. Another successful transition. The Principate was maturing. His reputation preceded him. Hero of the Jewish War, conqueror of Jerusalem, destroyer of the Temple. Some saw him as butcher, others as liberator. Everyone acknowledged his competence, his courage, his success. He had proven himself in the hardest school. Combat command, life and death decisions, victory and responsibility. But he was more than soldier. He was cultured, educated, refined. He spoke Greek fluently, wrote poetry competently, patronized artists generously. He understood that emperors must be complete, warriors and philosophers, generals and aesthetes, rulers and human beings. The job required everything. He had governed Rome during his father's absence, as urban praetor, responsible for order, justice, administration, daily governance of 1 million people, complex job, thankless task. He had handled it well. Citizens respected him. Senators trusted him. Officials obeyed him. The city ran smoothly under his leadership. He was unmarried when he became emperor. His wife, Arsina, had died young. He had loved Berenice, Jewish princess, sister of Herod Agrippa, beautiful, intelligent, cultured, but also foreign, Eastern, different. Roman prejudices ran deep. Marriage was impossible. He sent her away. Duty conquered love. Politics defeated passion. His reign began with disaster. Mount Vesuvius erupted on August 24, 79 CE, just 2 months after his accession. Pompey was buried, Herculaneum disappeared, Stabiae vanished. Thousands died instantly. Thousands more fled homeless. The Bay of Naples became a wasteland. Nature had struck Rome's heartland. Titus responded magnificently. He organized rescue efforts immediately. He provided emergency funds personally. He visited the disaster zone repeatedly. He consoled survivors individually. He rebuilt infrastructure systematically. His generosity was legendary. His compassion was genuine. His leadership was inspiring. Romans called him the darling of mankind. He completed his father's projects. The Colosseum opened in 80 CE. 100 days of games, gladiatorial combats, animal hunts, mock naval battles, free entertainment for everyone, bread and circuses, but spectacular circuses, memorable circuses. The people were delighted, the emperor was beloved, the dynasty was secure. The games were magnificent. Exotic animals from every corner of the empire, lions from Africa, bears from Germany, elephants from India, tigers from Asia, all displayed, All hunted, all killed for entertainment. Roman power made visible, Roman wealth demonstrated, Roman cruelty normalized. 5,000 animals died opening day. Criminals faced beasts unarmed. Gladiators fought to the death. The crowd roared approval. Blood soaked the sand. Rome celebrated its greatness. At least some Romans did. Others wondered about the cost, the morality, the meaning of it all. But Titus was no cruel tyrant. He was generous to a fault. He gave away fortunes, sponsored countless festivals, built public works, fed the hungry, housed the homeless. His reign was brief but golden. Citizens prospered, soldiers were content, senators felt respected. Everyone benefited from his leadership. He built efficiently. The baths of Titus opened near the Colosseum. Public bathing for thousands, clean water, hot pools, social spaces. Romans loved their baths. Titus gave them magnificent ones. Architecture as public service, beauty as civic duty, luxury democratized for all. He was merciful to enemies. Political opponents were pardoned. Exiles were recalled. Confiscated property was returned. Prosecutions were dropped. His reign marked healing, reconciliation, forgiveness. After decades of suspicion, Rome relaxed. Trust returned slowly, but it did return. He respected the Senate genuinely. He consulted them regularly. He followed their advice frequently. He treated them as partners, not servants, not enemies, not obstacles, but colleagues in governance, equals in responsibility, sharers of burden. The Republic lived on in his reign, transformed but recognizable. Foreign policy was peaceful, no major wars, no territorial expansion, just quiet diplomacy, careful management, patient negotiation. Frontiers stayed stable, allies remained loyal, enemies stayed quiet. Peace was profitable, stability was valuable, tranquility was treasured, but his reign was tragically short. On September 13th, 81 CE, he fell ill. Fever struck suddenly. Death followed quickly. He was 41 years old. He had ruled 26 months. Not long enough to complete his vision. Not long enough to secure his legacy. Not long enough for Rome's needs. His deathbed was heartbreaking. "I have made only one mistake," he said. What mistake? We do not know. Perhaps some mercy shown, some enemy spared, some opportunity missed. Or perhaps he meant naming no heir, leaving succession uncertain, creating potential crisis. Domitian succeeded immediately. Titus's younger brother, aged 30, untested, unknown. He had lived in shadows, watched others govern, learned by observation. Now suddenly he was emperor, the most powerful man on earth. The question was simple. Was he ready? Could he lead? Would he succeed? The early signs were promising. He honored Titus properly, deified him quickly, built temples to his memory. He continued ongoing projects, finished unfinished business, maintained established policies. Continuity seemed assured, stability appeared certain, the dynasty would survive. He was energetic from the start. He attended Senate meetings religiously. He reviewed cases personally. He inspected public works constantly. He was hands-on, detail-oriented, thorough. Some called him micromanager. Others called him conscientious. The difference was perspective. The results were mixed. He built extensively, more than any emperor since Augustus. The palace on the Palatine, massive, magnificent, overwhelming. Architecture as intimidation, space as statement, power made visible in marble. Critics called it excessive. Supporters called it appropriate. Emperors needed impressive settings. His military campaigns were ambitious. The Dacian Wars began in 85 CE. King Decebalus had grown too strong, too proud, too dangerous. He threatened the Danube frontier, raided Roman territory, killed Roman soldiers. War was inevitable. Domitian led personally, his first real test, his chance for glory. His last chance. The first campaign failed embarrassingly. Roman legions were defeated, commanders killed, standards lost. Decebalus grew stronger, more confident, more threatening. Roman prestige suffered, frontier security weakened. Something had to be done. Quickly, decisively, permanently. The second campaign succeeded partially. Roman armies regained lost ground. Decebalus was contained, tribute was extracted, but victory was incomplete. The enemy survived. The threat remained. The war continued. Not the glorious triumph Domitian wanted, not the decisive victory Rome needed, just expensive stalemate. He claimed victory anyway. Triumph was celebrated. Coins were struck. Arches were built. Propaganda proclaimed success. But soldiers knew better. Senators whispered truth. Citizens counted costs. Reality could not be hidden forever. Lies had limited lifespans. Truth would surface eventually. His building projects multiplied. The Forum Transitorium connected existing spaces. The stadium hosted athletic competitions. The Odeon featured musical performances. New aqueducts brought fresh water. Expanded baths provided public service. Construction was everywhere. Activity was constant. Rome was transformed again. But costs mounted steadily. Building was expensive. Wars were costly. Administration required funding. The treasury emptied gradually. Taxes increased regularly. Spending cuts became necessary. Popular programs were reduced. Public works were delayed. Citizens grumbled, senators protested, opposition grew. His personality darkened over time. Success had come too easily. Praise had been too constant. Power had been too absolute. He grew suspicious of everyone. Senators plotted against him, or so he believed. Generals challenged him, or so he imagined. Enemies surrounded him, or so he feared. Treason trials began in 89 CE. Lucius Antonius Saturninus rebelled in Germany. His revolt failed quickly. But Domitian saw conspiracies everywhere. Anyone could be traitor. Everyone was suspect. Paranoia became policy. Fear became law. Terror became normal. The Golden Age grew dark. Informers multiplied like plague. Citizens denounced neighbours. Slaves accused masters. Soldiers reported officers. Trust vanished completely. Society fractured totally. Rome became prison. Emperor became warden. Citizens became inmates. Freedom was memory. Safety was illusion. Tomorrow was uncertain. Philosophers were expelled from Rome. Writers were silenced. Historians were intimidated. Artists were controlled. Intellectual life withered. Cultural activity stopped. The mind of Rome was closing. The spirit was dying. The soul was leaving. Only power remained. Naked, brutal, absolute, empty. On September 18th, 96 CE, the inevitable happened. Palace freedmen struck first. Court officials joined them. Praetorian officers helped them. Even his wife may have participated. Everyone had reasons. Everyone faced danger. Everyone chose action. Domitian died in his bedroom, stabbed repeatedly. The tyrant was gone. The Flavian dynasty ended with him. 3 emperors, 33 years, mixed legacy. Vespasian had restored order. Titus had shown mercy. Domitian had brought fear. Together they had proven the system's strength, its adaptability, its durability. Even bad emperors could not destroy it. Even good ones could not perfect it. It simply endured, changed, survived, continued. The Senate moved quickly. Domitian's body was still warm when they proclaimed Marcus Coccius Nerva emperor. No civil war, no military intervention, no popular uprising, just senators choosing a colleague. The way the Republic should have worked, the way it finally did work, for one brief moment. Nerva was 65 years old, a career senator, respected jurist, experienced administrator, safe choice, harmless choice, the perfect transition emperor, someone to calm fears restore order, bridge the gap between dynasties. He was never meant to be great, just adequate, temporary, acceptable to everyone. His family was respectable but not prominent. His grandfather had been consul. His father was competent lawyer. Nerva himself had served faithfully for decades, under Nero, under Vespasian, under Domitian. He survived because he was useful, reliable, unremarkable. Now those qualities made him emperor. He faced immediate challenges. The Praetorian Guard was restless. They had protected Domitian. Now their emperor was dead. Their loyalty was questioned. Their future was uncertain. Some units threatened revolt. Others demanded compensation. All needed careful handling. One wrong move could spark civil war. Nerva managed them skillfully. He paid generous bonuses, confirmed their privileges, praised their service, but he also replaced their commanders. Quietly, gradually, without drama. Old officers retired, new ones were appointed, loyalties shifted, dangers passed. The Guard accepted him, eventually, grudgingly, but completely. The Senate loved him. Finally, one of their own held power. Not a general, not a provincial, not a freedman's son, but a proper senator, born to rule, trained for leadership, respectful of tradition. He consulted them constantly, followed their advice frequently, treated them as equals. The old ways seemed restored. He reversed Domitian's harsh policies immediately. Political prisoners were freed, exiles were recalled, confiscated property was returned, informers were punished, treason trials ceased, philosophers returned to Rome, writers resumed work, historians picked up their pens, the city breathed freely again. But freedom had costs. The treasury was empty. Domitian's building programs had been expensive. His wars had been costly. His paranoia had been wasteful. Bills were overdue. Debts were mounting. Taxes were insufficient. Something had to be done. Quickly, decisively, painfully. Nerva sold imperial property, auctioned palace treasures, cut unnecessary spending, reduced staff salaries, eliminated redundant positions. He led by example, lived simply, spent modestly, worked constantly. But it was not enough. More drastic measures were needed. Revenue had to increase, or expenses had to fall. He created new taxes reluctantly, inheritance duties, property assessments, luxury surcharges. The wealthy grumbled. They had supported his accession. Now they paid for it, literally. But alternatives were worse. Debasement, default, collapse. They paid. Reluctantly, but they paid. He instituted land reforms carefully. The alimenta system provided support for poor children. Land was purchased by the state, then leased to farmers. Rental income funded child support. Brilliant policy. It helped population growth, reduced rural poverty, strengthened agriculture, won popular support. Everyone benefited. But his greatest innovation was accidental. He had no children, no natural heir, no obvious successor. Traditional succession was impossible. Dynastic inheritance was unavailable. Something new was needed, a different approach, a better system. The adoption principle was born. In 97 CE, crisis forced his hand. The Praetorian Guard mutinied. They surrounded the palace, demanded justice for Domitian's killers, threatened the emperor directly. Nerva faced them personally, showed his throat, invited them to kill him. They hesitated, backed down, negotiated instead. But the message was clear. Military support was essential. Imperial survival depended on army loyalty. He needed a general, a soldier emperor, someone the armies would follow, the provinces would respect, the enemies would fear. But who? Many candidates existed. All had drawbacks, political baggage, personal enemies, regional loyalties. The choice had to be perfect. The empire's future depended on it. Marcus Ulpius Traianus commanded the German frontier. Upper Germany, 4 veteran legions, the most dangerous assignment in the empire. Germanic tribes pressed constantly. Raids were frequent. Vigilance was essential. Trajan had served there 15 years. The soldiers trusted him. The barbarians feared him. His reputation was spotless. He was Spanish by birth, from Italica near Seville. His family had settled there generations earlier. Roman colonists, fully Romanized, completely loyal. But provincial nonetheless. Fresh blood, new perspective, different background, change without revolution, innovation within tradition, perfect compromise. On October 27, 97 CE, Nerva announced his decision. Trajan was adopted, made heir, given proconsular power. The armies cheered, the Senate approved, the people accepted. Crisis passed, succession was secure, the principle was established. Merit would choose emperors, not birth, not luck, not accident, but proven ability, demonstrated competence, earned leadership. Nerva died on January 27, 98 CE, peacefully, in his bed, surrounded by friends. He was 66 years old. He had ruled 16 months. Brief reign, but crucial period. He had restored freedom, established precedent, chosen wisely. His legacy was not what he did, but what he made possible. The Golden Age could continue, under better leadership, with stronger foundation. Through wiser system, Trajan became emperor immediately. No delay, no question, no opposition. He was in Germany when news arrived. He stayed there, finished his business, secured the frontier, then returned to Rome, methodically, carefully, appropriately. He understood that being chosen was not enough. Ruling well mattered more. Earning respect took time. Proving worth required results. He entered Rome in 99 CE, simple ceremony, no elaborate triumph, no ostentatious display, just a soldier returning home. The people lined the streets, cheered his arrival, welcomed their emperor. He walked among them, talked with them, listened to them. Accessibility was his strength. Common touch was his gift. Humanity was his appeal. The Senate received him formally. He addressed them respectfully, promised to govern constitutionally, swore to respect their prerogatives. Then he proved it. He consulted them regularly, sought their advice constantly, followed their counsel frequently, but he never forgot who was emperor, who held ultimate responsibility, who made final decisions. His first years were peaceful, no major wars, no dramatic policies, just steady administration, competent government, gradual improvement. He learned the job carefully, studied every detail, mastered each responsibility. The empire was complex. Ruling it required knowledge, experience, wisdom. He acquired all three. He built throughout the empire roads in Britain, aqueducts in Spain, harbours in Italy, bridges in Germany. Infrastructure connected the provinces. Trade flowed freely. Commerce flourished everywhere. Prosperity spread widely. Citizens benefited directly. The emperor's popularity soared. His greatest project was the Forum of Trajan, larger than any before, more magnificent than imagination. Architects designed miracles, engineers solved impossibilities, artists created beauty. The complex included markets, law courts, libraries, assembly halls, everything a great city needed, all in one location, convenient, beautiful, permanent. The Column of Trajan stood at the Forum's heart. 100 feet tall, carved with spiraling reliefs, depicting Dacian campaigns, every detail perfect, every figure lifelike, every scene dramatic, but also accurate, historical, educational, art serving truth, beauty teaching lessons, stone recording history. By 101 CE, he was ready for war. Dacia threatened the Danube frontier. King Decebalus had grown stronger, richer, more dangerous. He raided Roman territory, killed Roman soldiers, challenged Roman authority. Domitian's wars had failed. Trajan's would succeed, decisively, permanently. gloriously. The First Dacian War lasted 2 years. 5 legions crossed the Danube. Auxiliary units supported them. Engineers built bridges. Siege engines took fortresses. Roman discipline defeated barbarian courage. Sarmizegetusa fell in 102 CE. Decebalus submitted, paid tribute, accepted terms, victory seemed complete. But Dacians were not beaten, only paused. Decebalus rebuilt his forces, recruited new allies, prepared for revenge. In 105 CE, he struck again, raided across the Danube, captured Roman forts, killed Roman garrisons. The war resumed, this time for keeps. No mercy would be shown, no quarter given, one side had to die. The Second Dacian War was brutal. Romans learned from experience, used superior technology, applied overwhelming force. Dacia was devastated systematically. Cities were burned, populations were enslaved, resources were seized. Decebalus died by his own hand. His kingdom disappeared from history. The province of Dacia was born. Roman colonists flooded the new province. Veterans received land grants. Merchants established businesses. Craftsmen opened workshops. Cities rose from ruins. Roman law replaced tribal customs. Latin language spread everywhere. Dacian culture vanished completely. Romanization was total, permanent, irreversible. The Dacian gold funded amazing projects. The Forum of Trajan expanded. The Baths of Trajan opened. The Circus Maximus was enlarged. Aqueducts were extended. Roads were paved. Harbours were deepened. Rome had never been more beautiful, more functional, more magnificent. Imperial wealth made visible. Roman power demonstrated. Victory celebrated permanently. But Trajan wanted more conquests. Armenia beckoned. Mesopotamia promised riches. The Parthian Empire seemed weak, divided, vulnerable. Alexander had conquered the East. Why not Trajan? Why not Rome? The dream was seductive, the challenge irresistible, the opportunity unique. In 114 CE, eastern campaigns began. 7 legions crossed into Armenia. Local kings submitted quickly. The country became Roman province. No resistance was offered. No battles were fought. Peaceful annexation, easy victory, simple conquest. Success bred confidence. Confidence encouraged ambition. Ambition demanded more. Mesopotamia fell next. Modern Iraq. The land between rivers, cradle of civilization, crossroads of trade, center of wealth. Babylonia surrendered without fighting. Assyria opened its gates. Ctesiphon was captured. The Parthian capital was Roman. The Eastern Empire seemed conquered. Alexander's shadow was matched. His achievements were surpassed. Roman armies reached the Persian Gulf in 116 CE. The furthest east any Roman force had penetrated. Trajan stood on the shore, watched ships sailing to India, dreamed of conquering everything. The whole known world under Roman rule. One emperor, one law, one peace. The ultimate imperial vision. But dreams collided with reality. The new provinces rebelled. Jewish communities rose everywhere. Cyrenaica, Egypt, Cyprus, Mesopotamia. Hundreds of thousands died. Cities were destroyed. Trade stopped. Order collapsed. The East was in flames. Victory turned to nightmare. Conquest became catastrophe. Trajan fell ill in 117 CE in Cilicia. On the way home, stroke or heart attack. Age and stress had taken their toll. He was 63 years old. He had ruled 19 years, extended the empire to its greatest size, won more victories than any emperor since Augustus, built more monuments than anyone except Augustus. His legacy was magnificent, but incomplete. His adoption of Hadrian was controversial, made on his deathbed, perhaps by his wife Plotina, perhaps forged completely. Hadrian was his ward, his protégé, his closest relative. But others had better claims, stronger qualifications, more support. The succession was disputed. The empire faced potential crisis, but Hadrian acted quickly, decisively, ruthlessly. Rival candidates died mysteriously, powerful opponents disappeared, critical documents were found, witnessed, authenticated. The armies accepted him, the Senate confirmed him, the provinces stayed loyal. By the time questions were asked, answers were irrelevant. He was emperor. That was what mattered. His first act was retreat. The new eastern provinces were abandoned. Mesopotamia was evacuated. Armenia was surrendered. Roman forces returned to traditional frontiers, the Euphrates, the Syrian desert, defensible lines, manageable territory, realistic goals. Expansion ended, consolidation began. Many criticized him, called him defeatist, coward, traitor to Roman glory. How could he abandon Trajan's conquests, surrender Roman victories, retreat from Roman territories? But Hadrian understood reality. The new provinces were indefensible, too distant, too expensive, too alien. Better to hold what could be kept than lose everything by overreaching. He was different from Trajan in every way. Intellectual, not soldier, Greek, not Roman, civilian, not military, artistic, not practical, sophisticated, not simple, complex, not straightforward. The empire needed different leadership, different vision, different approach. Expansion was over. Administration began. Hadrian travelled constantly, more than any emperor before or after. He visited every province, inspected every frontier, met every governor. The empire was his estate. He managed it personally, directly, continuously. Presence was power. Attention was control. Involvement was leadership. His first great journey began in 121 CE, to Gaul, to Germany, to Britain. The northern frontiers needed attention. Germanic tribes were stirring. British resistance continued. Defences required strengthening. The emperor came to see, to judge, to decide, to act. In Britain, he made a fateful decision. The frontier would be fixed, permanently. A wall would mark the boundary, from sea to sea. Across the island's narrow neck, stone and turf, forts and towers, ditches and obstacles, an impermeable barrier, Roman territory clearly defined, barbarian lands excluded forever. Hadrian's wall began construction in 122 CE, 84 miles long, 15 feet high, 10 feet thick, with 17 major forts, 80 smaller mile castles, 160 turrets, 9,000 soldiers garrisoned it, the most heavily fortified frontier in the empire, the most permanent monument to Roman engineering, the clearest statement of Roman limits. The wall was practical, symbolic, psychological. It protected Roman Britain, but it also abandoned Roman dreams. No more conquest, no further expansion, just defense, consolidation, acceptance of limits. The age of unlimited growth was ending. The age of careful management was beginning. From Britain, Hadrian travelled everywhere: Spain, Gaul, Germany, Pannonia, Dacia, Greece, Asia, Syria, Egypt, Arabia, Africa. Always moving, always learning, always improving. He rebuilt cities, founded colonies, established schools, created libraries, patronized artists, supported philosophers. The travelling emperor brought Roman civilization everywhere. Athens received special attention. Hadrian loved Greek culture, philosophy, art, literature, democracy. The city had given birth to Western thought. Now it was poor, neglected, forgotten. He restored its glory, built new districts, funded festivals, sponsored games. Athens became Roman Athens, but still Athens, still special. He founded cities too, Antinopolis in Egypt, named for his beloved Antinous, the beautiful youth who drowned in the Nile, accidentally or deliberately. We will never know. Hadrian's grief was genuine, his love was real, his loss was devastating. The new city was his monument, to love, to beauty, to loss. His building projects were everywhere. The Pantheon in Rome, rebuilt, perfected. The dome was engineering miracle, architecture as mathematics, space as sculpture, light as decoration, the most beautiful building ever constructed, still standing, still magnificent, still inspiring. Hadrian's greatest achievement. He codified Roman law systematically. The Perpetual Edict organized legal principles, made justice consistent everywhere in the empire. Same laws, same procedures, same rights. Roman citizenship meant Roman law. Roman law meant Roman justice. Roman justice meant Roman civilization. The system was logical, comprehensive, permanent. But his greatest challenge was coming. Judea simmered with resentment. The temple was gone. The city was ruined. The people were scattered. But hope survived. Messianic expectations, nationalist dreams, religious fervor, all dangerous, all growing, all directed against Rome, against Hadrian personally, against everything he represented. In 132 CE, the powder keg exploded. Bar Kokhba led the revolt. Simon, son of the Star, Messiah claimant, military genius, national hero. Jews flocked to his banner. Towns declared independence. Roman garrisons were massacred. The province was lost. Jerusalem was retaken. The temple worship resumed. Israel was reborn, or so it seemed. The Bar Kokhba War lasted 3 years. 6 legions were required. Thousands of auxiliaries, elite units from every frontier. The empire's full attention, maximum effort, total commitment. Villages were destroyed one by one. Caves were sealed with defenders inside. Judea became wasteland, desert, grave. When it ended, Judea was no more. The name was changed. Syria Palestina. The people were expelled, scattered worldwide. Jerusalem became Aelia Capitolina, a Roman city, with Roman names, Roman temples, Roman citizens. The Jewish connection was severed. Officially, legally, permanently, the diaspora was complete. Hadrian never recovered from the war's cost. 500,000 died. Entire legions vanished. The 9th Hispana disappeared completely. Veterans were settled elsewhere. The province was repopulated with foreigners, but scars remained. On the land, on the empire, on the emperor himself. Victory was hollow, success was bitter, achievement was tainted. He returned to Rome in 134 CE, exhausted, aged, ill. The travelling was over, the building slowed, the energy faded. He was 58 years old but looked 70. The burdens of empire had broken him. The weight of responsibility had crushed him. The cost of ruling had consumed him. His succession worried everyone. He had no children, no obvious heir, no clear choice. Several adoptions failed. Candidates died young. Plans went wrong. Fortune seemed cursed. Finally, in 138 CE, he chose Antoninus Pius, a senator's senator, respected, reliable, boring, the perfect follow-up to a brilliant original. Hadrian died on July 10, 138 CE, at Baiae, by the sea. He wrote his own epitaph. Little soul, wandering, pleasing guest and companion of the body, where will you go now? Pale, stiff, naked, you will not play as you used to. Poet to the end, philosopher in death, Roman in everything. Antoninus Pius became emperor smoothly. The Senate loved him. He was one of them, wealthy, aristocratic, traditional, conservative. He had governed Asia competently, served as judge fairly, managed his estates profitably. He understood administration, respected precedent, followed rules, boring leadership, exactly what Rome needed. His nickname came from his piety. Pious meant dutiful, religious, respectful. He honored the gods faithfully, respected traditions completely, followed customs exactly. He deified Hadrian despite Senate opposition, built the Temple of Divine Hadrian, completed unfinished projects, maintained continuity, preserved stability. He never left Italy during his reign, never travelled like Hadrian, never toured provinces, never inspected frontiers. He governed from Rome, through correspondence, via capable legates. The system was mature enough, professional enough, reliable enough. Personal presence was unnecessary. Competent administration sufficed. His reign was peaceful externally. No major wars, no territorial changes, no dramatic campaigns, just quiet diplomacy, careful management, patient negotiation. The Antonine Wall was built in Scotland, north of Hadrian's Wall, but abandoned after 20 years. The frontier returned to Hadrian's line. Permanence was preferred over expansion. Internal development flourished. Trade reached new heights. Cities prospered everywhere. Population grew steadily. Agriculture expanded constantly. The empire had never been more prosperous, more stable, more content. Citizens enjoyed unprecedented peace, security, opportunity. The Golden Age reached its zenith. Legal development continued. The jurist Gaius wrote his institutes. Foundation of legal education, basis of jurisprudence, source of principles. Roman law became scientific, systematic, universal. Justice became predictable, fair, consistent. The rule of law was established permanently, irrevocably. His personal life was exemplary. Devoted husband, loving father, responsible citizen. He lived simply, spent moderately, worked constantly. No scandals touched him. No rumours surrounded him. No controversies followed him. He was what Romans wanted their emperor to be: dignified, moral, reliable, dull. The Alimenta system expanded under him. More children received support. More families were helped. More communities benefited. Population growth accelerated. Rural areas stabilized. Social problems diminished. Investment in the future. Care for the present. Hope for tomorrow. Good government made visible. He died on March 7th, 161 CE, at Lorium, aged 74. He had ruled 23 years, the longest reign since Augustus, the most peaceful since Augustus, the most prosperous ever. His last words were simple. Give the watchword to the tribune. Equanimity. Calm to the end, balanced always, stable forever. Marcus Aurelius inherited a golden empire. Everything seemed perfect, prosperous, peaceful, secure, but appearances deceived. Pressures were building, problems were mounting, challenges were coming. The philosopher-emperor would face them all, test his principles, prove his strength, define his legacy. He was 40 years old, trained from birth for power, educated by best teachers, prepared for every responsibility, adopted by Antoninus at Hadrian's command, groomed for succession, ready for leadership. But theory and practice were different. Philosophy and reality rarely matched. Good intentions met hard choices. His meditations revealed his inner struggle, written for himself alone, private thoughts, personal reflections, philosophical discussions with his own soul. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Stoic wisdom, imperial burden, human frailty, all combined in one remarkable document. He faced immediate crisis. Parthia invaded Armenia, destroyed Roman forces, killed Roman commanders. Eastern frontier collapsed. War was necessary. Victory was essential. But Marcus was philosopher, not general. He sent Lucius Verus, his adopted brother, capable commander, reliable leader. The East could wait. Philosophy would guide from distance. The Parthian War lasted 5 years. Roman armies crossed the Euphrates, captured Ctesiphon, destroyed Seleucia. Victory was complete, total, overwhelming. But victory brought plague. Disease returned with the armies, spread through the empire, killed millions, weakened everything. Success became catastrophe. The Antonine Plague lasted 15 years. Smallpox probably, or measles. Something deadly, contagious, unstoppable. Cities emptied, farms were abandoned, trade collapsed, tax revenues plummeted, military recruitment failed, the empire bled population, wealth, strength, hope. The Golden Age was ending, dying, disappearing. Marcus faced the crisis personally. He sold palace treasures, auctioned imperial property, reduced court expenses, cut government spending, led by example, shared the suffering, maintained morale. His stoic principles were tested. His imperial duties were crushing. His personal losses were devastating. Germanic tribes sensed weakness. They crossed the Danube, raided Pannonia, threatened Italy itself. Rome had not been endangered since Hannibal. Marcus had to act, personally, immediately, decisively. The philosopher became soldier. The thinker became fighter. The emperor went to war. The Marcomannic Wars lasted until his death. 14 years of constant fighting, bitter campaigns, expensive victories. The frontier was restored. The barbarians were defeated. The empire was saved, but at terrible cost, in blood, in treasure, in strength, in confidence. The Golden Age was over. The long decline was beginning. Marcus died on March 17th, 180 CE, at Vindobona, modern Vienna, age 58, worn out by war, exhausted by plague, crushed by responsibility. His last recorded thought was profound. Death smiles at us all, but all a man can do is smile back. Philosopher to the end, stoic in defeat, human in everything. The last of the good emperors was gone. While emperors ruled and armies conquered, ordinary Romans lived their lives. They woke each morning in crowded apartments. They worked in busy shops. They dined in neighbourhood taverns. They bathed in public facilities. They watched games in massive amphitheatres. The Golden Age was not just politics and warfare. It was millions of people pursuing happiness, seeking prosperity, building families, creating communities. Roman cities were vertical. Population pressure forced buildings upward. Land was expensive in urban centres. Space was precious everywhere. The solution was simple. Build higher. Pack more people into smaller areas. Maximise every square foot. Use every available inch. Cities grew up, not out. Most Romans lived in insulae. Apartment buildings, multi-storey structures. The name meant islands. They rose like islands from the urban sea, surrounded by streets on all sides, accessible from multiple directions, dense, crowded, efficient. The backbone of Roman urban housing, home to millions of citizens. Ground floors housed shops, businesses, workshops, commercial activity. Owners lived above their workplaces, craftsmen above their tools, merchants above their goods. Work and home were integrated, business and family mixed together. Convenience was paramount, efficiency was essential, profit was possible. Upper floors were apartments, smaller as height increased, cheaper as stairs multiplied. The wealthy lived lower, closer to street level, near shops and services. The poor climbed higher, farther from convenience, closer to the sky. Social status was measured in steps. Wealth was counted in floors. Success meant moving down. The poorest lived in attics, single rooms, shared spaces, minimal facilities, no running water above ground level, no heat except braziers, no light except windows. Fire was constant danger. Collapse was regular threat. Death was frequent visitor. Urban poverty was harsh, brutal, unforgiving, but still better than rural starvation. Wealthy Romans lived differently. They owned domus, private houses, single-family residences, built around central courtyards. The atrium was the heart, open to sky above. Rainwater collected in basins, light-filled interior spaces. Air circulated naturally. Architecture followed climate. Form followed function. Beauty emerged from necessity. Rooms surrounded the atrium, the tablinum for business, receiving clients, managing accounts, conducting affairs, the triclinium for dining, entertainment, social gatherings, family meals. Bedrooms were private, libraries were quiet, kitchens were functional, gardens were peaceful. Every space had purpose, every room had meaning, every detail mattered. The wealthy competed through architecture, marble floors, painted walls, mosaic decorations, imported columns, exotic woods, precious metals. Houses became statements, investments, advertisements. Status was visible, wealth was tangible, success was architectural. Competition drove improvement, rivalry created beauty, vanity produced art. Water reached every neighborhood. Aqueducts brought fresh supplies, from mountain springs, through engineered channels, across valleys, over rivers, into distribution systems. Lead pipes carried water to fountains, to baths, to private houses. Clean water was Roman birthright, public health priority, urban necessity, engineering marvel, civic achievement. Public baths were social centres. Thermae served thousands daily, different temperatures for different purposes. The caldarium was hot, the tepidarium was warm, the frigidarium was cold. Bathers moved between them, gradually, systematically, healthily. Bathing was ritual, social activity, medical treatment, daily necessity, civilized behavior. Men and women bathed separately. Different hours, different sections, different facilities, but both enjoyed luxury. Heated pools, exercise areas, reading rooms, snack bars, massage services, hair cutting, body scraping, oil application. Baths were complete experiences. Entertainment centres, community hubs, democratic institutions. Rich and poor mingled. Citizens and freedmen met. Strangers became friends. Entertainment was everywhere. The Colosseum held 50,000. The Circus Maximus seated 250,000. 1 in 4 Romans could attend simultaneously. Events were frequent, often free, usually spectacular. Bread and circuses kept citizens content. Politics became entertainment. Violence became sport. Death became theatre. Gladiatorial games were most popular. Professional fighters, trained killers, public heroes. They fought with different weapons, various styles, established rules. Some were volunteers, seeking fame, money, glory. Others were slaves, criminals, prisoners, fighting for freedom, life, survival. All entertained crowds, fed appetites, satisfied bloodlust. Chariot racing was equally popular. 4 teams competed, reds, blues, greens, whites. Citizens supported teams fanatically. Riots erupted over results. Fortunes were wagered, careers were made, lives were lost, drivers were celebrities, horses were stars. Victory meant everything. Defeat meant nothing. Speed meant survival. Theatres presented more refined entertainment. Greek tragedies, Roman comedies, musical performances, dancing, singing, acting. Culture was democratized. Art was accessible. Beauty was shared. Even slaves attended performances. Children learned stories. Adults discussed themes. Entertainment educated. Art instructed. Culture civilized. Food was abundant in cities. Markets sold everything. Local produce. Imported luxuries. Fresh bread. Aged cheese. Salted fish. Spiced wine. Exotic fruits. Rare meats. Street vendors served hot meals, cold drinks, quick snacks. Restaurants offered full service, private dining, catered events. Urban life was delicious, varied, convenient, satisfying. Breakfast was simple, bread, perhaps honey, maybe cheese. Light meal, quick preparation, easy consumption. Romans were not morning eaters. They preferred afternoon dining, evening entertainment, night socializing. Dawn was for work, noon was for food, sunset was for pleasure, darkness was for rest. Lunch was larger. The prandium included multiple dishes, meat, vegetables, fruit, wine, more substantial, more social, more leisurely. Business lunches were common, political meals were frequent, social dining was normal, food facilitated relationships, meals created bonds, eating was networking, dining was diplomacy, dinner was everything. The cena was the day's main event, multiple courses, endless variety, social theatre. The gustatio began with appetizers, eggs, olives, honey cakes, light wines. The prima mensa featured main dishes, roasted meats, fresh fish, seasonal vegetables, strong wines. The secunda mensa ended with desserts, fruits, nuts, sweet wines, strong drinks. Dining was performance. Hosts displayed wealth. Guests showed appreciation. Servants demonstrated skills. Cooks created masterpieces. Everything mattered. Presentation, conversation, entertainment, music, dancing, recitation, poetry, philosophy, politics, business, love, hate, joy, sorrow, all served with dinner, all digested with wine, all remembered with pleasure. Roman society was layered, complex, fluid, but clearly defined. Citizens stood above non-citizens. Free men outranked slaves. Rich commanded poor. Age respected youth. Men dominated women. But exceptions existed. Rules bent. Boundaries blurred. Movement was possible. Change was achievable. Success was attainable. With luck. With skill. With determination. With help. With time. Citizenship was precious. Not universal. Not automatic. Not easy to obtain. But possible to achieve. Citizens enjoyed legal rights, political participation, social status, economic opportunities, military service, judicial protection, marriage rights, property ownership, religious freedom, cultural identity. Everything that mattered in Roman life required citizenship. Everything valuable depended on legal status. Full citizens were called civs. They voted in elections, served in legions, married legally, owned property, sued in courts, practiced religion freely, moved throughout empire, conducted business anywhere. Their children inherited status. Their wives shared privileges. Their families enjoyed protection. Citizenship was hereditary, valuable, protected, envied, desired by everyone, achieved by few. Latin rights were partial citizenship, intermediate status, between full citizens and foreigners. Holders enjoyed some privileges, legal protections, property rights, commercial opportunities, but no political participation, no voting, no office holding, no jury service. Still valuable, still desirable, still better than nothing. Many communities held Latin rights. Entire provinces qualified. Millions of people benefited. Foreigners were peregrini, free but not citizens. They lived in Roman territory, followed Roman law, paid Roman taxes, but enjoyed limited rights, no political participation, restricted legal standing, controlled movement, limited opportunities, still better than slavery, still hope for advancement, still possibility of citizenship through military service, imperial favor, legal change, time, patience, merit. Slaves were property, not people, legally speaking. They could be bought, sold, used, abused, killed, disposed of, without legal consequence. Masters had absolute power over their bodies, their labor, their lives, their children, their future. Slavery was foundation of Roman economy, basis of Roman lifestyle, source of Roman wealth, cost of Roman comfort, price of Roman leisure. But slavery was not permanent. Manumission was common. Masters freed slaves regularly, for good service, personal affection, deathbed wishes, tax advantages, social status, religious reasons. Freed slaves became freedmen. They gained citizenship, legal rights, economic opportunities, social advancement. Many became wealthy, some became powerful, a few became famous. Freedmen faced restrictions. They could not hold high office, serve in legions, marry aristocrats. Their children were full citizens. free of limitations, able to achieve anything. Freedmen were grateful, loyal, hard-working. They built businesses, accumulated wealth, gained influence, created dynasties, proved that slavery was not destiny. Freedom was possible, success was achievable, dreams could come true, social mobility existed, but slowly, gradually, carefully, wealth opened doors, education provided tools, connections offered opportunities, merit earned recognition, time healed origins, generations erased memories. Aristocracy was not closed, just expensive, difficult, competitive, ruthless, dangerous, but achievable, with enough effort, enough luck, enough time. Women occupied complex position, neither fully free nor completely restricted. They could own property, run businesses, make contracts, sue in courts, divorce husbands, remarry freely, but no political rights, no voting, no office holding, no jury service, no military service. Domestic sphere was theirs. Public arena was forbidden. Private power was real. Public influence was indirect, hidden but effective. Wealthy women were influential. They managed estates, arranged marriages, funded projects, supported candidates, influenced policies through husbands, sons, lovers, friends, clients, networks. Female power was subtle, unofficial, unrecognized, but real, effective, occasionally decisive. Smart women found ways. Clever women created opportunities. Determined women achieved goals. Ordinary women worked constantly in shops, workshops, markets, fields, homes. Anywhere labour was needed. They sold goods, made products, provided services, earned money, supported families, raised children, managed households, maintained order, created civilization. One family at a time, one generation at a time, one woman at a time. Children were treasured, but not protected. Infant mortality was high. Disease was common. Accidents were frequent. Death was normal, expected, accepted. Families were large. Parents had many children, hoped some survived, planned for loss, grieved for dead, celebrated living, invested in future through surviving offspring. Education was available for those who could afford it. Boys learned reading, writing, arithmetic, literature, history, philosophy, law, public speaking. Girls learned domestic skills, some reading, little writing, no philosophy, no law, different expectations, separate training, unequal opportunities, but both learned, both improved, both contributed, in their own ways, according to their roles, within their limitations. Roman economy was global. Trade routes spanned continents, from Britain to China, from Germany to India, from Spain to Arabia. Goods flowed freely, money moved easily, information travelled quickly, business was international, profits were enormous, risks were substantial, opportunities were unlimited, for those bold enough, smart enough, rich enough, lucky enough. Mediterranean was Roman lake. Ships carried everything. Grain from Egypt, wine from Gaul, oil from Spain, marble from Greece, silk from China, spices from India, slaves from everywhere. Raw materials moved to workshops. Finished goods reached markets. Profits flowed to investors. Taxes supported government. Trade funded empire. Commerce created civilization. Currency was universal. Gold auri for large transactions. Silver denarii for daily business. Bronze sestertii for small purchases. Copper asses for minor items. Same coins everywhere. Same weights. Same values. Same acceptance. Standard currency eliminated confusion. Reduced costs. Facilitated trade. Encouraged commerce. Enabled growth, created prosperity. Banking was sophisticated. Credit was available. Loans were common. Interest rates were regulated. Contracts were enforced. Debts were collected. Bankruptcy was legal. Fresh starts were possible. Entrepreneurs could borrow. Investors could lend, business could expand, trade could grow, economy could prosper, everyone could benefit. Manufacturing was extensive. Every city had workshops, every trade had guilds, every product had makers, pottery from kilns, glassware from furnaces, metalwork from forges, textiles from looms, leather from tanneries, food from bakeries, books from scriptoriums. Everything was made, everything was sold, everything was needed, by someone, somewhere, sometime. Quality was variable. Luxury goods were excellent, mass products were adequate, cheap items were poor, but functional, sufficient, available. Markets sorted everything. Prices reflected quality. Consumers chose carefully. Value was recognized. Merit was rewarded. Standards improved. Competition worked. Excellence emerged. Progress continued. Technology was practical. Romans were not inventors. They were improvers. They took existing ideas, made them better, bigger, stronger, more useful, more profitable, more durable. Engineering was their genius. Organization was their talent. Management was their skill. Getting things done was their specialty. Making things work was their gift. The Golden Age was built on countless individual efforts. Farmers growing food, merchants moving goods, craftsmen making products, builders constructing cities, teachers educating children, doctors healing sick, lawyers solving disputes, soldiers keeping peace, officials maintaining order, citizens participating, everyone contributing to something larger, something permanent, something golden, something eternal, something Roman. These individual contributions created something magnificent. Roman culture flowered during the Golden Age. Writers crafted immortal verses. Philosophers explored human nature. Architects built eternal monuments. Engineers solved impossible problems. Lawyers created lasting principles. Administrators governed fairly. Culture was not decoration. It was foundation, the invisible framework supporting Roman civilization, the permanent legacy outlasting empires. Literature transformed during the Golden Age. The crude verses of early Rome gave way to sophisticated poetry. Raw chronicles became polished histories. Simple speeches became elegant orations. Latin literature reached its peak, not through accident, but through patronage, imperial support, educated audiences, wealthy sponsors, cultural competition, literary excellence. The Augustan age had produced Rome's greatest poets. Virgil, Horace, Ovid, masters of their craft, creators of immortal works, but their successors were not inferior, just different. The Silver Age writers were more complex, more psychological, more realistic, less idealistic, more critical, more human. They reflected their times, questioned their world, explored their souls. Seneca dominated Silver Age prose. Philosopher, playwright, politician, advisor to emperors. He wrote on every subject. Moral philosophy, natural science, political theory, personal ethics. His style was sharp. His insights were deep. His influence was enormous. Stoicism became fashionable. Virtue became desirable. Self-control became admirable. Through his writings, his example, his teaching, his tragedies were violent, passionate, psychological, not meant for performance, but for reading, reflection, discussion. Medea explored female revenge. Phaedra examined forbidden love. Thyestes depicted family horror, dark themes, complex characters, moral questions. Literature was becoming sophisticated, challenging, disturbing, mature. His letters to Lucilius were masterpieces. Personal philosophy, practical wisdom, daily guidance, how to live well, how to die nobly, how to face adversity, how to enjoy prosperity, how to treat friends, how to handle enemies, how to serve others, how to improve oneself. Stoicism made accessible, wisdom made practical, philosophy made human. Tacitus wrote the greatest histories. His annals covered the Julio-Claudian emperors. His histories described the year of 4 emperors. His style was unique, bitter, cynical, penetrating. He saw through official propaganda. Imperial pretensions, human weaknesses. His portraits were devastating. His insights were brilliant. His judgments were harsh, but usually accurate. He mourned the Republic's death, hated imperial autocracy, despised court flattery. His histories were obituaries for lost freedom, vanished virtue, dead heroes, but also warnings about power's corruption, flattery's poison, tyranny's cost. He wrote for posterity, for future generations, for eternal judgment. His work survived. His message endured. His warnings echoed. Pliny the Younger provided different perspective, optimistic where Tacitus was dark, hopeful where others despaired, grateful where critics complained. His letters described daily life, legal cases, literary discussions, political events, social customs, personal relationships, a window into Golden Age reality. Ordinary people doing ordinary things, living normal lives, finding happiness. His uncle Pliny the Elder died at Vesuvius, investigating the eruption, helping victims, seeking knowledge. The younger Pliny described the disaster, his uncle's heroism, the volcano's fury, humanity's fragility, great literature from great tragedy, art from catastrophe, beauty from horror, the Roman way. Suetonius wrote imperial biographies, the 12 Caesars, from Julius to Domitian. Gossipy, scandalous, entertaining. Not great literature, but invaluable sources. He preserved stories, recorded details, captured personalities, history made human, politics made personal, power made understandable, through anecdotes, through rumours, through truth and lies mixed together. Martial perfected the epigram, short poems, sharp wit, social commentary. He mocked pretensions, exposed hypocrisy, celebrated ordinary life. His verses were quotable, memorable, repeatable, Roman humour at its best, clever, cruel, honest, unforgettable. Literature could be funny, art could be brutal, poetry could be truthful. Juvenal wrote satire savagely. He attacked corruption, denounced vice, exposed folly. His satires were bitter, angry, brilliant. Bread and circuses was his phrase, describing Roman decadence, political apathy, moral decay, social criticism disguised as entertainment, medicine disguised as poison, truth disguised as humour. Philosophy flourished under imperial patronage, not original thinking, but practical application, how to live well, how to die nobly, how to serve others, how to improve society, how to find meaning, how to achieve happiness. Philosophy became therapy, guidance, comfort, hope, strength, wisdom for daily use. Stoicism dominated educated minds. Epictetus taught in Rome, a former slave. He understood suffering, poverty, powerlessness. His lessons were simple. Control what you can, accept what you cannot. Find peace within yourself. Happiness is choice. Virtue is freedom. Wisdom is power. Internal resources matter most. Marcus Aurelius embodied philosopher king. His meditations were private notes, personal reflections, imperial diary. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Stoic wisdom applied to imperial responsibility. Philosophy tested by power. Principles challenged by reality. Theory confronted by practice. Roman Stoicism was practical, not abstract. It dealt with real problems, daily challenges, human weaknesses, political pressures, social responsibilities, family duties, personal failures. Stoics were not detached, but engaged, not passive, but active, not withdrawn, but involved. Philosophy for living, not just thinking. Architecture was Rome's greatest achievement. Not most beautiful. Greeks built more elegantly, not most innovative. Others created new forms, but most practical, most durable, most influential, most lasting. Roman buildings solved human problems, met community needs, served public purposes, improved daily life. The Romans perfected concrete. Volcanic sand mixed with lime, stronger than stone, cheaper than marble, more versatile than wood. It allowed new shapes, curved walls, vaulted ceilings, massive domes, complex structures, revolutionary architecture, through revolutionary material, science-serving art, technology enabling beauty. The Pantheon was the masterpiece, built by Hadrian, around 125 CE. The dome was impossible, 143 feet across, made entirely of concrete, no visible supports, open to sky above, light pouring down, space soaring upward, engineering marvel, architectural poetry, mathematical perfection, still standing, still inspiring, still incomparable. The dome's construction was brilliant. Concrete was mixed with different materials, heavy stones at bottom, like pumice at top, weight decreased with height. Stress was distributed evenly. Thickness was carefully calculated. Strength was precisely engineered. Art and science merged, beauty and function united, form and structure harmonized. The interior was overwhelming. Perfectly circular space, coffered ceiling, marble decorations, coloured stones, bronze fittings, light effects, shadow play, spiritual atmosphere, religious feeling, divine presence, architecture as theology, space as worship, building as prayer. Not just shelter, but inspiration, not just structure, but experience. Aqueducts were equally impressive, engineering on massive scale, water brought from distant sources through mountains, across valleys, over rivers, into cities, precise gradients maintained, steady flow ensured, clean water delivered, public health protected, urban life enabled, civilization made possible. The Aqua Claudia was typical, completed under Claudius. 43 miles long, springs near Subiaco, terminus in Rome, mostly underground. Some elevated sections, magnificent arches, precise engineering, daily capacity enormous, serving hundreds of thousands, clean, fresh, abundant, pure, life-giving water. Multiple aqueducts served Rome: Aqua Appia, Aqua Marcia, Aqua Tepala, Aqua Julia, Aqua Virgo, Aqua Alciatina, Aqua Claudia, Aqua Anio Novus, Aqua Traiana. 9 major systems, hundreds of miles of channels, millions of gallons daily. More water than many modern cities. Roman engineering at its peak. Roman planning at its best. Distribution was systematic. Settling tanks removed sediment. Lead pipes carried water to fountains, to baths, to private houses, to businesses, to anywhere needed. 3-tier system, public needs first, private uses second, commercial applications third, social priority, practical organization, efficient management, democratic distribution. Sewers were equally important. The Cloaca Maxima drained the Forum, built by Etruscan kings, expanded by Republic, perfected by Empire, underground channels, stone construction, perfect grades, flowing water, waste removal, disease prevention, urban sanitation, public health, quality of life, invisible but essential. Roman roads connected the empire. 50,000 miles of highways, stone surfaces, proper drainage, mile markers, way stations, rest houses, bridge connections, mountain passes, river fords, every province linked, trade facilitated, communication enabled, administration unified, military movement rapid, civilian travel safe. The Via Appia was the first, the queen of roads, Rome to Brindisi, 350 miles, straight as possible, solidly built, beautifully paved, perfectly maintained, model for everything else, standard for comparison, source of pride, symbol of power, monument to engineering, pathway to eternity. Urban planning was scientific. Cities were laid out systematically. Grid patterns, central forums, public buildings, residential districts, commercial areas, industrial zones, religious precincts, entertainment venues, everything organized, logically placed, properly spaced, carefully planned, efficiently arranged, aesthetically pleasing. New cities followed standard patterns. Roman colonists founded hundreds, veterans settled, citizens established, merchants attracted, craftsmen recruited, local populations Romanized, native customs absorbed, Roman law imposed, Latin language taught, Roman culture spread, civilization expanded, one city at a time. Existing cities were improved, forums were added, baths were built, theatres were constructed, aqueducts were extended, sewers were installed, streets were paved, buildings were regulated, services were provided, standards were raised, quality improved, life enhanced. Through Roman organization, Roman engineering, Roman planning. Law was Rome's most enduring legacy, not perfect justice, but consistent principles, logical procedures, rational methods, predictable outcomes, equal treatment, fair hearings, due process, legal rights, constitutional protections, the foundation of Western justice, the basis of civilized society, the framework of ordered liberty. Early Roman law was crude. The 12 tables were basic. Simple rules, harsh punishments, limited scope, but they were written. Public, known to all, not secret, not arbitrary, not personal. Legal principles made visible, justice made accountable, government made limited, law made supreme. The Praetor's Edict was revolutionary. Annual proclamation, legal procedures, available remedies, standard forms, predictable processes, the same every year, throughout the empire, for all people. Consistency created confidence. Predictability encouraged trade. Fairness promoted growth. Justice enabled prosperity. Professional jurists developed the law. Legal scholars, expert advisors, trained judges. They studied precedents, analyzed principles, resolved conflicts, created interpretations, built legal science, made law rational, systematic, comprehensive, practical, useful, just. Gaius wrote the Institutes, legal textbook, foundation of education, systematic presentation, clear explanations, practical examples. Students learned from it, lawyers used it, judges followed it, for centuries. Legal education standardized, professional training improved, justice became scientific, law became teachable. The law covered everything: property rights, contract obligations, family relations, inheritance rules, criminal punishments, commercial regulations, administrative procedures, constitutional principles, personal rights, public duties. Nothing was overlooked. Everything was addressed. All situations were covered through accumulated wisdom, practical experience, careful thought. Legal principles were universal, same laws everywhere, from Britain to Syria, from Germany to Africa. Roman citizens enjoyed identical rights, faced identical obligations, received identical treatment under identical procedures, by identical standards, unity through law, order through justice, peace through fairness. Provincial administration was sophisticated. Governors were professionals, trained administrators, experienced officials. They enforced Roman law, collected Roman taxes, maintained Roman peace, protected Roman interests, but respected local customs, honored local traditions, used local leaders, adapted to local conditions, flexibility within structure. Provincial councils represented communities, local aristocrats, elected representatives, regional leaders. They advised governors, communicated needs, expressed grievances, coordinated responses, bridge between ruler and ruled, channel for communication, source of information, means of participation, democracy within empire. Cities governed themselves largely. Roman law provided framework. Roman officials maintained order, but local magistrates handled details, daily administration, routine business, minor disputes, community services. Local pride was maintained, self-government was preserved, autonomy was respected within Roman system, under Roman law for Roman purposes. Taxation was systematic. Direct taxes on property, indirect taxes on commerce, customs duties, inheritance taxes, sales taxes, everything calculated, carefully assessed, fairly collected, honestly administered, revenue-supported armies, funded administration, built infrastructure, provided services, maintained order, enabled civilization. The census counted everyone. Citizens, families, property, resources, skills, needs. Information was power. Knowledge was control. Data was foundation of rational policy, effective administration, fair taxation, adequate representation, proper planning, good government, through accurate information, complete records, systematic knowledge. Roman administration was professional, trained officials, clear procedures, written records, regular reports, systematic oversight, consistent policies, predictable outcomes, accountable results. Government became science, administration became art, public service became profession, excellence became standard, competence became requirement, merit became measure. The Golden Age created lasting culture, not just entertainment, but foundation, not just decoration, but structure, not just luxury, but necessity. Literature explored human nature. Philosophy provided guidance. Architecture solved problems. Engineering enabled progress. Law ensured justice. Administration maintained order. Culture was civilization. Civilization was Rome. Rome was eternal. Through culture, through achievements, through lasting contributions to human progress, to human knowledge, to human hope. But even golden ages must end. Even Rome had limits. Even the best emperors could not stop time. Change was coming, slowly at first, almost invisibly, then faster, more obviously, more dangerously. The seeds were planted during Marcus Aurelius's reign. They would grow after his death, flourish in the decades that followed, transform the empire completely, end the Golden Age forever. Marcus Aurelius died fighting Germans on March 17th, 180 CE, at Vindobona, modern Vienna. His death marked more than dynastic change. It ended an era. The age of good emperors was over. The age of soldier emperors was beginning. Philosophy would give way to pragmatism. Wisdom would surrender to necessity. Peace would yield to war, forever. His son Commodus inherited immediately, age 18. No experience, no training, no preparation. The adoption principle was abandoned. Hereditary succession returned. Merit was ignored. Birth mattered most. The system that had produced 5 good emperors died with Marcus Aurelius. What followed was different, darker, more dangerous, less stable. Commodus was everything his father was not. Athletic, not intellectual. Pleasure-seeking, not duty-bound. Violent, not peaceful. Selfish, not selfless. He loved gladiatorial games. Performed in the arena personally. Fought exotic animals. Killed ostriches. Wounded elephants. Embarrassed senators. Shocked citizens. Degraded imperial dignity. Made empire into entertainment. He ignored government completely. Delegated everything to freedmen. Sold offices to highest bidders. Emptied the treasury. Raised taxes arbitrarily. Debased the currency. Ignored the armies. Neglected the frontiers. Allowed corruption everywhere. The Golden Age institutions withered, standards collapsed, excellence disappeared, decay began. His personal obsessions consumed imperial resources. He built a colossal statue of himself as Hercules, renamed Rome after himself, called months by his names, demanded worship as living god, fought in gladiatorial combats, won every contest, collected enormous prizes, bankrupted the state, for personal glory, private pleasure, meaningless victories. The Senate hated him. The armies despised him. The people grew weary. His closest associates feared him. Everyone had reasons to want him gone. On December 31, 192 CE, they acted. His wrestling partner strangled him in his bath. While planning New Year celebrations, the Golden Age ended with a gurgle in bath water, behind palace walls, ignominiously, appropriately. What followed was chaos. The year of 5 emperors, Pertinax ruled 3 months, assassinated by Praetorian Guard. Didius Julianus bought the throne, ruled 2 months, killed by rivals. Pescennius Niger claimed power in Syria, Clodius Albinus in Britain, Septimius Severus in Pannonia. Civil war erupted, the empire fractured, the Golden Age was truly over. Severus won eventually, but at terrible cost. He ruled through military force, disbanded the Praetorian Guard, replaced them with frontier soldiers, increased army pay, reduced citizen privileges, militarized the government, created military monarchy. The Principate died, the Dominate was born, everything changed, nothing was the same. The changes were deeper than politics. Demographics were shifting, barbarians were penetrating, climate was cooling, diseases were spreading, trade was declining, cities were shrinking, population was falling, the empire was aging, weakening, transforming into something else, something different, something less golden. Military pressures were mounting everywhere. The northern frontiers faced constant attacks. Germanic tribes were moving, pressured by others behind them, seeking new lands, better opportunities, Roman wealth. They had learned Roman tactics, copied Roman equipment, hired Roman officers, become dangerous enemies, formidable opponents, existential threats. The Marcomannic Wars had shown the problem. Marcus Aurelius fought 14 years, won every battle, lost the war anyway. The barbarians kept coming, in waves, endlessly, relentlessly. Roman resources were finite. Barbarian numbers seemed infinite. Mathematics favoured the barbarians. Time was on their side. Eventually they would win, unless something changed. Roman armies were shrinking. Recruitment was difficult. Citizens avoided military service, preferred civilian careers, comfortable lives, urban pleasures. Military service was hard, dangerous, poorly paid, long-term. Why die for empire when you could profit from trade? Why fight barbarians when you could join them? Why serve Rome when Rome served itself? Barbarians filled the gaps. Germanic warriors joined Roman legions, rose through Roman ranks, learned Roman methods, then taught other Germans. The army was barbarizing. Roman discipline weakened. Roman loyalty wavered. Roman identity blurred. Who was Roman? Who was barbarian? The lines were disappearing. The distinctions were fading. Economic pressures were equally serious. The empire was too big, too expensive, too complex. Administration costs were enormous. Army expenses were crushing. Infrastructure maintenance was constant. Public services were expected. Everything cost money. Revenue sources were limited. Taxes were already high. More increases meant rebellion. But expenses kept growing. Something had to give. Trade was declining gradually. Germanic raids disrupted commerce. Piracy threatened shipping. Brigands attacked caravans. Travel became dangerous. Expensive. Uncertain. Merchants stayed home. Markets shrank. Profits fell. Tax revenue declined. The economic cycle was vicious. Less trade meant less money. Less money meant weaker armies. Weaker armies meant more raids. More raids meant less trade. Currency was weakening steadily. Silver content was reduced. Coins were lighter. Value was questionable. Inflation was constant. Prices rose regularly. Fixed income suffered. Savings evaporated. Investment disappeared. Economic confidence collapsed. People hoarded goods, avoided currency, returned to barter. The monetary system was failing. The economy was reverting. Civilization was retreating. Cities were struggling everywhere. Population was falling. Buildings were empty. Services were reduced. Taxes were unpaid. Infrastructure was crumbling. Walls needed repair. Aqueducts leaked. Sewers backed up. Streets were unsafe. Urban life was deteriorating. Citizens were leaving, moving to countryside, seeking security, finding poverty, creating problems. Agriculture was changing too. Small farms were failing. Large estates were expanding. Slave labor was declining. Peasant tenancy was increasing. Productivity was falling. Food prices were rising. Rural poverty was growing. Urban supply was threatened. The agricultural base was weakening. The demographic foundation was shifting. The economic structure was transforming, irreversibly. Disease continued its work. The Antonine Plague had ended, but others followed. Smaller epidemics, regional outbreaks, constant mortality. Population never recovered. Birth rates stayed low. Death rates remained high. The empire was bleeding people, losing citizens, weakening itself through biological forces beyond human control, beyond imperial power. Climate was cooling gradually. The Roman warm period was ending. Temperatures were dropping. Growing seasons were shortening. Crop yields were declining. Northern regions were less productive. Barbarian pressure was increasing. As their lands became colder, less fertile, more marginal, they moved south, seeking warmth, finding Romans, creating conflict. Technology was stagnating. No major innovations, no breakthrough discoveries, no revolutionary improvements. Roman engineering was mature. Roman architecture was perfected. Roman law was complete. Roman administration was systematized. Everything was done. Nothing was new. Progress had stopped. Innovation had ended. Decline was beginning. The cultural confidence was fading too. Literature was declining. Philosophy was repetitive. Art was imitative. Architecture was grandiose but empty. The creative spark was dimming. The innovative spirit was dying. The cultural leadership was ending. Rome was becoming a museum of past greatness, former glory, lost excellence. Christianity was growing steadily, offering hope to hopeless, comfort to suffering, meaning to confused, purpose to lost, community to isolated. The old gods seemed distant, uncaring, irrelevant. The new God promised love, salvation, eternal life for everyone, regardless of birth, wealth, status, education. The appeal was enormous. The growth was unstoppable. Christian values challenged Roman assumptions. Pacifism versus militarism, humility versus pride, charity versus selfishness, equality versus hierarchy, love versus power, service versus domination. The contrast was stark. The choice was clear. Many Romans were choosing the new way, the better way, the Christian way, the future way. Marcus Aurelius had seen it all beginning. The pressures mounting, the problems growing, the solutions failing. His meditations were full of foreboding, resignation, acceptance. He knew the golden age was ending, but he did his duty anyway. Fought the battles, maintained the frontiers, preserved the system, as long as possible, as well as possible, with whatever strength remained. The Roman golden age ended, but it did not disappear. Its legacy lived on, in laws and languages, buildings and books, ideas and institutions, roads and aqueducts. The empire fell, the achievements endured. Rome conquered through culture, ruled through legacy, survived through influence, across centuries, around the world, into the future. Western law is Roman law. Every modern legal system traces its roots to Rome. Property rights, contract obligations, criminal procedures, civil remedies, constitutional principles, due process, equal protection, all Roman ideas, Roman innovations, Roman gifts to humanity. Justice systems worldwide follow Roman patterns, use Roman concepts, apply Roman logic. The Justinian Code preserved everything, written in Constantinople, in the 6th century, when Rome had fallen, but Roman law survived, organized systematically, presented clearly, transmitted completely, to medieval Europe, to modern world. Every law student studies it, every lawyer uses it, every judge applies it, consciously or not. Roman law lives on. Modern languages are Roman languages. French is Latin, Spanish is Latin, Italian is Latin, Portuguese is Latin, Romanian is Latin, spoken by hundreds of millions, written by countless authors, taught in schools everywhere. Romance languages spread Roman thought, Roman values, Roman perspectives, across continents, through generations, into the future. Even Germanic languages borrowed heavily. English is half Latin, through Norman French, through Church Latin, through scholarly Latin. Thousands of words, legal terms, medical words, scientific vocabulary, academic language, governmental terminology, all Latin-derived, all Roman-influenced, all evidence of lasting impact. Architecture is thoroughly Roman. Every capitol building, every courthouse, every university, every bank, every important structure uses Roman forms, Roman proportions, Roman principles, columns and pediments, arches and domes, classical orders, symmetrical designs. Roman architecture is eternal, universal, constantly imitated, never equalled. Washington, D.C. is New Rome. The Capitol is Roman Temple. The Supreme Court is Roman Basilica. The Jefferson Memorial is Roman Rotunda. Government buildings everywhere follow Roman models, use Roman symbols, express Roman values, democracy, justice, law, order, civilization, all Roman gifts, Roman legacies, Roman influences. Roman engineering principles survive everywhere. Modern concrete uses Roman techniques. Road construction follows Roman methods. Aqueducts work on Roman principles. Sewage systems copy Roman designs. Urban planning uses Roman concepts. Grid patterns, central forums, public spaces, zoned districts, organized services, all Roman innovations, Roman contributions, Roman achievements. Christianity absorbed Roman structure. The Pope became emperor, cardinals became senate, bishops became governors, parishes became provinces, church hierarchy copied imperial administration, Latin became church language, Roman law became canon law, Roman titles became ecclesiastical offices, Christianity was Romanized, Rome was Christianized, both were transformed. Catholic means universal, Roman Catholic means Roman universal. The Church spread Roman culture, Roman law, Roman language, Roman organization, across Europe, around the world, through missionary activity, educational work, cultural influence, religious authority. Rome conquered through Christ, ruled through church, survived through faith. Medieval universities were Roman institutions. Bologna studied Roman law. Paris taught Roman authors. Oxford read Roman historians. Students learned Latin. Professors used Latin. Books were written in Latin. Knowledge was transmitted in Latin. Education was Roman education. Scholarship was Roman scholarship. Learning was Roman learning. For centuries, across Europe, throughout the world. The Renaissance was Roman revival. Artists studied Roman models. Architects copied Roman buildings. Writers imitated Roman authors. Scholars translated Roman texts. Politicians quoted Roman examples. The past became present. Ancient became modern. Roman became contemporary. Again. Always. Forever. Humanism was Roman philosophy. Individual worth, human dignity, rational thought, moral behavior, civic duty, public service. All Roman values, Roman ideas, Roman principles, applied to modern problems, used for contemporary solutions, adapted to current needs. The Renaissance humanists were Roman humanists, unknowingly, consciously, deliberately. The Enlightenment was Roman Enlightenment. Separation of powers. checks and balances, rule of law, representative government, individual rights, limited authority, or Roman concepts, Roman innovations, Roman contributions to political thought, to governmental structure, to constitutional theory. Montesquieu studied Rome. Madison read Romans. Jefferson quoted Romans. The founders were Roman republicans. Modern, updated, improved. But Roman? The American Constitution is Roman document. Senate and House, executive and judiciary, federal and state. All Roman ideas, Roman structures, Roman solutions to governmental problems, to political challenges, to constitutional issues. America is New Rome, democratic Rome, republican Rome, successful Rome, lasting Rome. Modern cities are Roman cities, planned streets, zoned districts, public services, clean water, waste disposal, traffic management, urban administration. All Roman innovations, Roman solutions, Roman achievements, applied to modern problems, adapted to contemporary needs, used for current challenges. Every mayor is Roman magistrate. Every city manager is Roman administrator. Every urban planner is Roman engineer. Sports are Roman entertainment. Stadiums are Roman amphitheatres. Athletes are Roman gladiators. Spectators are Roman crowds. Competition is Roman contest. Victory is Roman triumph. The Olympics revived Roman games. Professional sports follow Roman models. Entertainment industry uses Roman methods. Bread and circuses, panem circens, still relevant, still effective, still popular. Roman historians set standards: objectivity, documentation, analysis, interpretation, narrative skill, literary excellence. Tacitus is still read. Suetonius is still quoted. Livy is still studied, for style, for content, for method, for wisdom. History is Roman discipline. Scholarship is Roman pursuit. Knowledge is Roman goal. Truth is Roman value. Roman literature survives everywhere. Virgil is still taught. Ovid is still read. Horace is still quoted. Cicero is still studied. For language, for style, for content, for wisdom. Every educated person knows Roman authors. Every writer studies Roman models. Every poet reads Roman verses. Literature is Roman heritage. Culture is Roman gift. Civilization is Roman legacy. Roman philosophy guides modern thought. Stoicism influences psychology. Marcus Aurelius inspires leaders. Seneca teaches wisdom. Epictetus shows strength, personal responsibility, self-discipline, rational thought, moral behavior, inner peace. All Roman ideas, Roman values, Roman gifts, to suffering humanity, to searching souls, to troubled minds. Roman values shape Western civilization: individual worth, personal responsibility, civic duty, public service, rule of law, limited government, religious tolerance, cultural diversity. All Roman contributions, Roman innovations, Roman achievements, not perfect, but positive, not complete, but substantial, not final, but foundational. Rome's greatest legacy is the idea itself, that diverse peoples can unite, that different cultures can merge, that universal laws can govern, that common citizenship can bind, that shared values can endure, that human civilization is possible, achievable, sustainable, improvable, eternal. Modern Europe is Roman achievement. Unity in diversity, common law, shared currency, open borders, peaceful cooperation, democratic government, all Roman dreams, Roman goals, Roman visions, finally realized, after centuries, through struggles, with setbacks, but ultimately successful. Rome lives on, in European Union, in Western civilization, in human progress. The Golden Age is over. 2,000 years have passed. Empires have risen and fallen, civilizations have flourished and faded, but the lessons remain, the achievements endure, the legacy continues, across time, around the world, in human hearts, in human minds, in human hopes for the future. Rome succeeded through inclusion, not exclusion. The empire welcomed all peoples, absorbed all cultures, embraced all talents. Citizenship was earned, not inherited. Merit was rewarded, not birth. Ability was recognized, not bloodline. The melting pot was Roman invention, American application, universal principle, eternal truth. Rome prospered through law, not force. Legal rights protected everyone. Due process served all. Justice was blind, impartial, universal. Courts were fair. Judges were honest. Procedures were clear. Laws were known. Punishments were proportionate. The rule of law was Roman creation. Modern necessity, civilized requirement, human need. Rome endured through pragmatism, not ideology. What worked was kept. What failed was changed. Traditions were honored, but not worshipped. Innovations were welcomed, but not forced. Flexibility was strength. Adaptability was wisdom. Change was life. Evolution was survival. Progress was possible, because Romans were practical, reasonable, realistic, effective. Rome governed through delegation, not micromanagement. Local leaders were trusted. Regional customs were respected. Cultural differences were tolerated. Religious diversity was accepted. Unity was achieved through variety. Strength came through flexibility. Power flowed through freedom. The federal principle was Roman discovery. Modern application, democratic necessity. Human wisdom, Rome built through cooperation, not competition. Engineers shared knowledge. Architects borrowed ideas. Artists learned from masters. Writers studied predecessors. Everyone contributed. Everyone benefited. Everyone improved. Together, collectively, continuously. Collaboration was Roman method, human imperative, civilized behavior, eternal principle. Rome created through synthesis. Not originality, Greek philosophy and Roman law. Eastern mysticism and Western logic. Barbarian energy and civilized refinement. All merged, all combined, all improved. The whole was greater than parts. Unity was stronger than division. Cooperation was better than conflict. Synthesis was Roman genius. Human necessity. Creative process. Universal truth. But Rome also teaches caution. About power. About pride. About permanence. Nothing lasts forever. No empire is eternal. No system is perfect. No achievement is final. Success breeds complacency. Prosperity creates softness. Peace enables weakness. Strength requires constant effort. Excellence demands continuous improvement. Survival needs perpetual vigilance. Rome teaches about leadership. Good emperors made golden ages. Bad emperors destroyed everything. Character matters more than talent. Virtue matters more than ability. Service matters more than power. Humility matters more than pride. Leaders serve. They do not rule. They guide. They do not command. They inspire. They do not intimidate. Leadership is service. Power is responsibility. Authority is trust. Sacred trust. Rome teaches about citizenship. Rights come with duties. Freedom requires responsibility. Democracy demands participation. Liberty needs law. Equality requires effort. Justice needs citizens. Active citizens. Informed citizens. Engaged citizens. Responsible citizens. Citizens who care. Citizens who serve. Citizens who sacrifice. For common good. For shared future. For eternal values. Rome teaches about values. Material prosperity is not enough. Military power is not sufficient. Cultural achievement is not adequate. Moral character is essential. Spiritual purpose is necessary. Ethical behavior is required. Values matter most. They outlast empires, survive catastrophes, inspire generations, guide humanity toward better future, higher purpose, noble goals. Rome teaches about time. Golden ages are brief. Good times are temporary. Bad times are survivable. Nothing is permanent, everything changes, everyone dies, but ideas endure, values survive, achievements last, influences spread, legacy continues, through children, through students, through followers, through believers, through humanity, forever. Rome teaches about hope. After collapse comes renewal, after decay comes growth, after death comes rebirth. Civilizations rise again, cultures revive, peoples recover, progress continues, hope survives, because humans learn, adapt, improve, overcome, endure, through time, across space, despite everything, always, forever. The Roman Golden Age was human achievement, not perfect, but magnificent, not complete, but substantial, not final, but foundational. It showed what humans can accomplish, together, when they try, when they care, when they cooperate, when they sacrifice, for something greater, something better, something eternal, something golden. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, remember Rome. Remember the emperors who served, the soldiers who sacrificed, the builders who created, the writers who inspired, the ordinary people who lived, loved, worked, hoped, dreamed of better world for their children, for their future, for you. Their world is gone, their buildings crumble, their names fade, but their achievements endure, their values survive, their legacy continues, in you, through you, because of you. The golden age is over, the golden legacy is eternal. Sleep well, dream golden dreams, wake to golden possibilities. The future is yours, make it golden, make it last, make it matter, forever.